Okay.
Well, good morning all.
Morning.
I hope you slept well. Brussels is it best, the weather, what can we do? But it's good for sessions like ours, otherwise you would think I should be outside enjoying a Brussels beer or Brussels chocolate. But no, here you are, and I think if you are interested in sustainable public procurement, at EU level, I couldn't imagine a better place than right here, right now. And if you ever thought public procurement was boring or public food procurement, after today, it will change you. Your colleagues will notice. No, it's really, we have a lot of passionate public food procurers here. Also, the rate of lawyers, legal experts is high, but I'm aware we have a mix of participants. So there are some that consume laws at breakfast, others who evade them, others who avoid them. But when food comes to it, it's really a lot about passion. And I think there's no better example also as Bettina here with me will moderate and also introduce herself. I'm the moderator. My style will be like a bamboo. So very tough on time, but very adaptive when it's good discussions and I see people are not falling asleep, then I see now it's a good time to keep on some topic. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. Just one point. This is mainly about the coach project. So it's really about the link between small-scale farmers and the public plate. So we are not solving it all today about public food procurement. We will dive deep, very deep, but it will be exciting topics because you really have in this room the most innovative, let's say also examples on linking small-scale farmers and public plates. We had a lot of discussions in Coach about how can we do it, what are the issues from the farmer side, not just from the procurer side. So we're happy to share, because this is also about the spreading. We don't want to be a small community and meet like a small community. No, we want to spread and have more leaders and multipliers. So I'm Peter. I work for ICLEI. Well, you know me all now by now, but there are other new faces, because some people said they come today, maybe they come later. And I'm also a lawyer by training. I've been working for more than 10-15 years on public procurement or public food procurement as well. And I run also City Food. It's a global program of ICLEI on urban food systems. So not just food procurement and school meals, but also generally on urban food systems like the markets, farmers markets, but also food waste and other topics related to food. I stop here and I pass on the word to Bettina from Copenhagen.
And hello, everybody. My name is Bettina Bøgman-Madsen, and I work in the municipality of Copenhagen, where I'm the category manager for food. I also work as a procurement lawyer there. I do procurement, I write them, and I have been connected to Coach during the whole period because I had this idea about a potato tender for many years ago and how to do this and how to link education into tenders. I love doing procurement. I love doing procurement differently and incorporating the political goals, because I do believe that this can be one of the drivers that can help us move the food system in the right direction. So I think I looked very much forward to this day. It was written into the grant agreement many years ago, like 3 years ago almost. And I really believe that this is one of the days where we hopefully together can get even better. We have looked at many different ways to do things, and we will go through them now this morning because it's kind of a training event. So, but I don't know how much we can train you guys, because I talked with several of you and I know that you're really good in procurement already. So, but together maybe we can come with new ways. So I think that by this, I will just hope that we will get a good day and that we will, start moving. One of the things I have been thinking about, though, is how many here are procurement people, like writing procurement, doing procurement. Yeah, it's almost a little bit more than half, kind of. How many do have a legal background of that, like a law study or something? Yeah, very good. Because we will go through of course, how it is to write procurement, but we will also have some legal heavy stuff, and that's why we have Johannes here on the first page, first row, because first page, yeah, okay. Because he will help us go through how it's linked to the directive, what we can do, just so we feel, okay, this is true, we can actually do it. And hopefully, I would love this day to be a day where we question each other, where we challenge each other, and also not be afraid saying, but why can we not do this and that? Because this is the way that we solve all coins. I was just talking to Johannes and Peter this morning that Johannes and I, we worked together maybe for 10 years. He started in Copenhagen municipality just right out of school and was challenged by me saying, but I would like to do this and I'm thinking this is legal. Don't you go, can you look at the books and then please figure out if it's not? And then he comes, no, you can't do because blah, 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 blah. Then can we do like that or like that or like that? And then he's like, actually, right here, I cannot say no. So that's probably legal. Yeah. Okay, then we'll do that. So this is how we work because he's brilliant at knowing his legal background, where I'm often more creative. But I always and never write anything I do not believe is legal. So this is, I always background check. I always make sure that there's nothing to say so in what we do. So this, I hope, together we will be inspired, get new ideas today, but also hopefully be challenged. So
definitely.
That's it for me. Now it's you, I think.
Yes, and also you know, Bettina said together, so we would really briefly know who you are. You are not so many, so I don't think we take till lunch, and we don't need to know all about your life, but just who you are and whom you represent. So I start with you, Johannes.
Yeah,
you were already put on the spot.
So you can see me. My name is Johannes Mikkelsen. I'm a commercial lawyer from Denmark. And as Bettina said, I worked with her for 5 years when I was fresh out of school. And for the last 5 years, I've been at a private law firm. And my specialty background is public procurement. So I do a lot of things with, we have a lot of municipalities as clients, and that's a very broad legal background, but still the procurement is my expertise. So that's also why I'm here today, to discuss all of this with you. Yeah, I'm in the middle of my 30s now. I've been working for 10 years out of school. So I think I'm at a point where I feel really comfortable in these rules, and I know them all, but almost without having to open the books.
We will challenge you later.
That's it.
Please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Chiara Falco. I'm a PhD student at the University of Turin, and I'm part of a European research project on sustainable public procurement. And in specific, my research is on sustainable public food procurement, the legal aspects and also some economic aspects.
About Chiara, I must say I got really jealous because I studied law. It was very tough, very boring. She did the research 4 years in Rio, and now about sustainable. Her thesis on sustainable food procurement. I mean, that's definitely much more fun. Please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gauthier Blandin. I'm head of catering school service in Dunkirk city, and I work with procurement service of Dunkirk to change to the local procurement.
Merci.
Okay, Clovis Sabot from Dunkirk as well. I'm head of procurement as far as services and goods are concerned. So not only food, but other stuff. And we work together to get local, sustainable, and profitable for farmers food.
Yeah, the best place. Thank you, and thank you for not demonstrating against the pension reform or Manuel Macron being here. Please.
Yes, I'm Henny. I'm from the city of Umeå in Sweden, and I'm not a procurer. I work for the procurement office, and I work with sustainability issues connected to procurement.
Thank you. Yeah, we saw your presentation yesterday with the North Lights. Mit der größeren Leitungen there.
Yes. My name is Annika Axelsson, and I work in the city of Malmö, and I work as a food procurement officer.
Yes, my name is Monica Selean. I work as a branch manager for food procurement at the Swedish National Procurement Agency in Stockholm, Sweden.
Thank you.
I'm Francesca. I work in the ICLEI food team in a food-related project and also in coach project. And yeah, I'm happy with the organization of this event and really happy to have you here.
I must really say also, Francesca, I must say also a big applause because she's really the mastermind of making all these projects. As I said yesterday, it's our first big event here, and yeah, we wouldn't have known how to make it. It's really the first time where do we put this cable from the very little things to, and it's all good. So thanks, Francesca, really.
Hello, I'm Marta. I'm coming from Portugal, Merton, South Alentejo. And I'm here in 3 scales, so 3 levels. So my husband is a small organic farm. I'm in the head of a local NGO that is doing an bottom-up agroecological transition with the local authority, and the canteen supply with local food is one of the big topics. And at regional level, I'm coordinating the project with 13 local authorities that with the objective of co-design a food shed based on the supply of the canteens with local and sustainable food that will have 18 months of inspiration and training. And one of the special issues is this one, the procurement in the canteens.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Monika Kubisz. I come from Poland, the municipality of Rybnik. I am not a procurement officer, but as a member of a team of Department of Development of the city, we work with procurement officers just to push them to make the food procurement more sustainable. We are also part of a city interest group run by ICLEI because of several projects in sustainable food as we run.
Thank you very much. No, very good to have particular procurers and procurement experts and city representative from also Eastern European countries. We have Poland, Slovakia, Romania, because sometimes also here the Commission have this funny idea that sustainable public procurement is more about the well-off cities in the West and all this. But as we always say, you know, it's really about bringing good food to children in this case, or to public canteens. And this is not about geographies, and it's not about so much money. It's really more about priorities and where you put the money. On to you, Sabina.
Hi, I'm Sabina Nicolella from Fondazione Ecosistemi. We are an organization based in Rome, and it's easier to say what I'm not than what I do.
I hope you are not.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm familiar with some of the aspects of the directive linked to procurement and the Italian procurement law. For what concerns sustainable procurement, I'm focused mostly on the social aspects in procurement, but all my colleagues work on sustainable procurement at 360 degrees. So I'm a bit of a sitting in a corner. So today will be very interesting for me to integrate the knowledge, the partial knowledge that I have.
Thank you, Sabina. Sabina, it's also like you mentioned the Forum Compraverde.
No, I haven't.
Please, if you're...
Yeah, as I said, my organization has got a lot of expertise in sustainable procurement, and we organize every year an event, a 2-day event on sustainable procurement. We've been doing it for the past...
Thank you.
For the past 15 years. So this year will be the 17th and 18th of May in Rome, but you can follow the event also online. I can...
Yeah, I think it's really cool because they have an annual event on public procurement, not just food procurement, but there are also awards on the best, on the best procurement of food. So I think it's something to really to imitate also in other countries, to have this national gathering annual on for instance, food procurement in this case, or also like we do, and with Bettina as well, to have a network of procurers that meet. I think that's quite important to work together and progress together. On to you, Eva.
My name is Eva Blano. I'm from Slovakia, and I'm head of a non-profit organization. We are involved in School Food for Change, and we do, as an organization, we do the whole food school approach, and we help the schools to get the green procurement and improve the canteen food and educate the children, educate the staff, educate the teachers. And so that's we have a program, and that's we've been working in the whole School Food for Change program.
Thank you, Eva. Mihaela.
Hello, my name is Mihaela Plățilă. I'm from WWF Romania. I'm different heads. So I'm a policy officer working on sustainable agriculture in WWF. I also have expertise in green public procurement and working with our municipalities in Brașov to change a little bit the mindset of our procurer staff, because they thinking that the procurement is it's a way of doing things like they did before, like 10 years ago, and they are not very open-minded to change a little bit the process and the way that they can do this. So yeah.
Hi, I'm just going to jump up because I'm going to point things. I'm Lindy, I'm from the Coach project. The most I know about procurement is from proofreading things that ICLEI produced. So
don't be so modest.
But yeah, I work, and again, I work for a university, but I'm not an academic, so I'm more involved in the communication side of things and monitoring the impact. And the reason I've jumped up is over here. There's a little code to scan about the event. So I'm really interested today in what impact this event has for you or your organisation. And you may have seen me yesterday going around and grabbing people and taking a really short video. I know that not everybody likes seeing them, do they? No. So I hope that you don't necessarily have to talk straight to camera. You can talk to me and I can have it to one side. But if you've got anything to say about this event and how you might like to use anything that you've learned from this experience and take it forward, I would love it if you can grab me before the beginning of the afternoon sessions, and we'll do a quick try and go somewhere quiet and get some video footage. Sorry to take so long.
No, that's good. Maybe, Dorina, you can also take a picture of the audience now and then later in the evening, and then we see if there are new spark. Is there some? Thank you.
My name is Marijke Marans. I work for Green, which is the umbrella organization for the organic sector in Belgium, actually Flanders. I have some expertise on procurement, mainly on organic, but I mainly consider the impact of choices that are made in a tender on the sector. Because most often there are choices made that don't have any output. So that's, I think, a very important reflection to make. And so, of course, I aim at as much organic in the tender as possible.
No, thank you. I mean, this output is important because that's also what I love about procurement, because someone sees like, okay, it's complicated, it's low, whatever. But what I see, especially also in this project or coach, you discuss about criteria, eventually there is the tender goes out, someone wins, but then there is the food on the plate, right? And this food can be from the small scale farmers, it can be healthy for the environment, healthy for the people, all the nice things in one plate. So there is an impact, and you eat it, and it's really impact and visible one. Whereas there's a lot of talk about sustainable food systems, and often one could get lost, this is wrong, that is wrong. But in procurement, at least it's something very concrete eventually, because it's a lot of impact, big impact, small plate. Yes, please.
I'm coming from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, with Melina, coming from non-to-profit, and each day working with 100 schools in Sarajevo. In Sarajevo, in Bosnia, don't exist any mechanism like organized systematic public procurement, but in this 100 schools exists two exist 100 procurement offices, and this is without tool. This event is for us very useful to making a first step to establishing this deal, this solution, this mechanism to better policy implement in the public procurement for small farms, school, etc. And thank you for the invitation.
No, thank you for being here. We are very happy and proud also that Sarajevo will be a replication city in School Food for Change. So we'll work together and see what you do, what we do, and then how there can be some positive impact there. Thank you. Emily?
My name is Emily, and I'm a procurement officer working with Bettina in Copenhagen. And right now I'm doing a dynamic purchasing system, which you will hear more about later.
Thank you. Mar?
I'm Tamara. I'm the head of services of the city of Ghent, Flemish region, Belgium. I'm responsible, one of the things I'm responsible for is the school catering. And I am not a procurement officer, but I do use procurement to get my services done.
Thanks, God.
Specifically, I do write the technical and technical specifications. And this is my buddy, Daisy. I'm a procurement officer and we try to put as many sustainable criteria into our procurement. And we try to find ways around the law to do it. To being clear. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I also work for the city of Ghent in the team of Tamara. So everything regarding the school meals. And I also work on the School Food for Change project. I'm not a procurement officer. I know bits and pieces thanks to my colleagues. But in School Food for Change, there's a work package around public procurement. So today I know I will learn a lot. That will help me.
Just to say, Sarah is a dietitian. Yeah.
Oh, that is good.
Quite important.
Oh, thanks a lot. Well, good also that you came, Claudia, to balance a bit the gender balance.
Yeah, I am just a friend of Peter. So.
You know, we need the numbers.
My name is Claudio Serafini from Organic Cities Network Europe. It's a network with a big city like Paris, Vienna, and a small village like Florence, Rochefoucauld. We have, of course, very big testing of public.
And I think what I also like about Claudia, because we had dietist, lawyer, Claudia is a philosopher by training. Yeah. So it's good to have it all, you know. Thank you. Then Dorina.
Hello everyone, I'm Dorina. Most of you know me from yesterday. I work at ICLEI in communications and as such I'm part of School Food for Change. And today I'm here, as you know, to take some pictures.
World Press.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Then we have someone here, please.
Yeah, I'm Karen Stevens, and I'm head of the procurement department of the municipality of Schaerbeek, also city. I'm a procurement officer, so I'm involved in tendering for the school canteen and also everything with alimentation. So I had two colleagues who were here yesterday, so we split up.
Wonderful. No, very good. Schaerbeek hosted also together with us. We organized the Procura Plus, an event on public procurement last year. It was really a nice one.
In October.
Yes. Yeah, really memorable. Thank you. The last one, if you just say quickly who you are and who you represent.
Sorry for the late wrong schedule. But yeah, I'm Catarina. I'm from Portugal. I work for a not-for-profit organization that has a research basis that it's called Food for Sustainability. So we study the food production and the food consumption, how we can do it more sustainable. And I work directly with municipalities, so I'm here to absorb and try to influence that municipalities to have more sustainable food procurement.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Giovanna Lippens. I'm also from the municipality of Scarbeck, and I work together with parents, but specifically on food.
Oh, wonderful. No, it's really good also to have always municipalities from close by, because they're the big companies or the big ones. They have their lobbyists here. For our topics, we need the municipalities, you know, who do it, who show that it's working, the sustainability, for instance, in this case on procurement. And that's really good. So thank you all for coming. Have I forgotten one? Ah, yes, Torres.
Hi, hello. My name is Inês Moraes. I'm from Torres, Portugal, near Lisbon. I work in the school meals, and I am one of the responsible to the school foods, sustainable food school program. And I need to learn from you about public procurement too.
Yeah. Should have brought a bit of sun at least. No, thank you very much.
And also thank you for the online participants. Now
yes.
We don't have maybe the time to...
Yeah, that will be difficult because they cannot stand up. No, but welcome all. Thank you for listening in. And well, it was good to hear a bit who you are and your backgrounds also for the discussions. Then I quickly show the agenda. So the first part, we are there, then we will have different modules. Each module is basically a session of this training. It's more a training and exchange. It's not now a hardcore training on different, but it's sessions. We want to keep it very interactive. So bring your questions. Let's have discussions, no monologues. So the first session is about farm to fork public procurement, where we talk a bit about the EU policy, the framework. Some of it you heard already yesterday, so I won't try to repeat everything, but some of you were not there yesterday. And then I will also present concrete initiatives that we did together with other partners, friends, organizations. And then Bettina and Johannes will talk about the wheel of procurement. And I don't reveal more, no spoilers, we have questions and answers. And then we'll have a coffee break, and after the coffee break we will engage. As we said yesterday, and also Bettina emphasized it, if you want to really link your public plate, your canteen with small-scale farmers, you have to do a market engagement. You have to understand what's out there. You cannot just write your criteria. You really have to go and look down and look out and talk to who produces, who wholesalers, retailers, small-scale farmers. And once you understand the whole kaleidoscope of production and retail, then you can do criteria, and then you can have the production, a local one on your plate. And so that will be then all in Copenhagen's hand, this session on market engagement. And there is also the highlight will be the potato tender from Bettina. It sounds like potato tender, but you will see it's like mind-blowing. And then we will try to, at 12:30 we will recover during the lunch break. And then comes the really tough part. There is legal do's and don'ts. So try not to eat too much, that you don't fall asleep, no siesta there, because it's legal do's and don'ts. So we will talk about legal, and 3 lawyers, 5 legal opinions. Here we will see, but I saw that Johannes is also open for creativity, which always shows that he's a progressive lawyer. And then we will also have Chiara Avalvo presenting the case of Dordogne, which is really a very interesting one, because Dordogne department is also in the school food project. And I remember we were all impressed at the last General Assembly, how detailed Vincent could detail, about some, when they think about chicken, they think, okay, chicken nuggets, but he could really, I remember, like the liver of the thing, all the parts and what they all serve to the children. I thought, wow, in Dordogne, they really eat it all. So it was like very, for me, interesting that with such detail, the procurer could also know his stuff. But also there, no more. We will have interactive trying to keep it very interactive. Then again, coffee break, and afterwards we will open up for innovative approaches, because it's really difficult from a legal perspective. You cannot buy, if you are really strict, you know, and conservative, legal departments will say no risks. You cannot purchase local. You cannot reserve contracts for small-scale farmers. So basically, it's no, 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 no. Mm-hmm. But there are innovative ways, you know, to get local food, and we will come with you with the top edge, latest innovative approaches there. One from Ghent, one about dynamic food procurement, and also legally, how can you really do that? I think that's it. Now, Coach, maybe quickly, because Coach is really the project where this training is also part of it, which is one of the deliverables. So maybe, Linda, you want to quickly say a few words about Coach?
Yeah, sure. So Coach is a Horizon 2020 project. It's one of these lovely acronyms. So it's collaborative agri-food chains. So that's where we got it. So yes, anything that's got this lovely orange colour is usually to do with us. And we're very fortunate to have a great consortium of partners from sort of human rights perspective, access to food, rights to food, farmer perspective, and we, I think, are all working together, but in different ways, sort of from different angles, to try and bring a change really to the food system. So we love working with ICLEI. We love. I'm from Coventry University. They're leading the project. We love working with the Copenhagen municipality, because I think for us, one of our most exciting elements of the project that's grown to be very exciting is around food procurement. It does seem to have taken off. So we have a few elements, but this is one that we're very excited about, and we think this event is brilliant. So thank you guys for organising this. Yeah, is that enough?
Yes, that's fine.
That's fine. So, yeah. Okay.
And I must say, it's really.
Sorry. There's one more thing.
Yeah.
We have these things in Coach called beacons, which basically means they're good practice examples. But we've realised kind of through the project that doesn't necessarily translate to European English as well, maybe. But anyway, we have some beacons here, so they can wave. We've got a beacon. Your beacon, be waving. Yeah. So again, they're examples within our project who we think are doing things really well. So talk to them while here as well.
We are a bacon too.
Yeah.
No, I must say the Coach and the coordination, they really take the word collaborative very seriously. We had a meeting, a conference on a farm in Paris. The ones that participate will certainly remember. We all shared rooms. I was allocated my room with a Belgian beer brewer, I remember. So it was really collaborative in all senses, procurers and farmers, so that we don't talk only from one side. Then the Coach, part of Coach, our part, and Copenhagen's, and together also with beacons, with good practices like Torshvedras or Ghent. We are responsible for the procurement side, so basically the demand side. And it's the Farm to Fork Procurement Toolkit. And the toolkit, as you know, is like a box. So there are a lot of things in this box. On one hand, there will be a guidance on procurement criteria for Farm to Fork procurement, and a tender model with all where you can sort of check what should be in there, which is done by Copenhagen. Then there will be in this box good practice examples. I think it's around 5, right, Francesca? And some of them are here that we will do nicely with pictures, so that people see, okay, what is a good practice? What does this mean? Farm to fork, public procurement. We will have a spotlight fact sheet, some questions about terms, because as you also know what we said yesterday, some of these terms, small-scale farmers, even if you ask you, maybe separately in a room, there will be 30 different definitions of what a small-scale farmer, or things like this, you know. We will have a vision paper on what worked, and that will be Ghent. A vision from a city on farm to fork procurement, also in a wider sense. Then from Johannes, the legal do's and don'ts checklist. Should be a few short pages just to see okay, here you're really in slippery, dangerous grounds, but here you're on the safe side. This could be a creative approach. Then the video that we will show shortly. That's it. And this will coming up soon. You will find it on the coach website or on different channels. Now we thought of a little exercise, and it's just for you also to mingle a bit. So what we invite you is just to have a few minutes with your neighbor, to have a chat. Do we need to support small and medium scale farmers? Why do we need to support them? Or what's why do we do this? Why the importance to link small scale farmers and the public plate? But it's also a way, you know, to know each other. But think about it, and after a few minutes, we will, with the help of Francesca, just note down a few keywords so that we are all a bit on the same page. Because maybe some of you think, well, I don't think it's now such an important point, or so. Just choose. Look around to choose one or two partners and talk. Why do we need to support, engage with small-scale farmers?
And also for the online participants, they can write in the chat their keywords.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, we can feel
Me. Så coping. Er det ikke det? Ja, præcis. Ja, man kan sige, der er jo både, altså, der er både nogle økonomiske og nogle miljømæssige, alle mulige andre, man skal. Og så det der stemmer i virkeligheden. Men hver tid gerne vil understøtte SME'er. Nu er SME'er i europæisk forstand jo noget helt andet end dansk. 100% af alle danske virksomheder er omsætning på altså på mindre end 50 millioner. Så der er ret mange danske SME'er, som vil være mikrovirksomheder i europæisk forstand. Men det er helt grundlæggende ud på sådan basalt mikroøkonomisk synspunkt, så er det her med til at modvirke monopol og oligopol. Der er en effektiv konkurrence mellem ja, men også særligt for de her altså hvad det yes, are you good? You remember you had this? Yeah, of course. Hello. Yeah, I'm good. I see. Still working. Wait, I will let you know how much.
E poi c'è
If you write me with the date, I can put it in the calendar. Yes, good.
One more minute.
no, c'è quella dei barrios
Quella la fai tu?
Sì, la faccio io.
Tu faccio il video.
Ma il video possiamo anche perché siamo un po' in ritardo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
If it's some flowers, everybody's got some flowers.
Thank you, Sabina. So what have we got? Let's start here in front. You had an interesting debate here. What?
Yes, we have. But we said it's difficult to get the small and local farmers to answer the procurement.
So responsiveness.
Yeah, that is one.
Okay.
It's a challenge.
But if you support the farmers, it's also increased competition and it's good for the whole market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though they might already be selling through private contracts. So, and it's so important to have the market dialogue. You got to start years ahead.
Market dialogue and responsiveness.
And tender school. We have that with smaller suppliers.
You have schools with what?
Yes, we invite, when we are doing procurement, we are inviting the suppliers, the small suppliers, to give them some education on how the procurement works. Yes, so that they understand how it works.
You do so.
Yes.
So education.
Education, yeah.
Education.
Training and education. Thanks. I go back and forth. I don't know, this corner. I do like this. Tamara, I think.
So to the question, do we need to support small and medium scale farmers? I would say no, because it's the wrong question.
I'm getting pale.
The right question should be, what can we do from the procurement side to support a more resilient and sustainable food system? That is the right question. And what kind of actions can we do to create such a resilient, sustainable food system? One of the things is that we should open up our tenders for small and medium scale farmers and enterprises, and we need to take action.
So focus on resilience, yeah.
So sorry, I ruined your question.
No, it's good. I mean, that's what we also try to say. It's about also resilience and food security, because it's often used food security in order to say let's keep a bit out sustainability, because it's all about food security, as if sustainable public food procurement would not be about resilience and food security. So thank you very much for twisting my question. From this angle, Sabina.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that public procurers are public administrations. They work for local public administrations, so the look that they have on the governance of the territory is not just focused on the procurement side. Procurement is a tool, so small farmers keep local wealth at local level. So it's like, instead of giving subsidies that sometimes you would have to give out for unemployment, you generate and you protect local labor. And this means not only that you're producing extra wealth on the territory, but you're also producing taxes and active people.
So local economic
and,
development.
People that are happy because they're working, and so on and so on.
Local wealth.
And also local farmers protect the land and the territory. It's like they actually, they prevent fires from starting. They keep the, I don't know how to say it in English, but they keep riservano proprio il territorio, tengono puliti i bordi. Yeah.
Landscape protection.
Yeah, which is something that otherwise the public administration has to pay for. So it's, and then there was another point that I forgot.
The employability of the people of the land.
Yeah.
And
also maybe that we stress that in general, the sector, if you look at the agri-food sector, 99% of the companies are SMEs in Europe. So why not? Really, they are there. They are the massive force moving the sector. So they have to be included in the.
Yeah, it's part of the economy. Not just food security, but the backbone of the economy.
Yeah, local economy.
Mihaela, thank you, Sabina.
I think that it's important to support them for diversity in agri-food system. So we don't need to have just big farmers. So we need to have also small and medium for diversity in agriculture system. Also, I think that it's important that small farmers, in our case, are family farms. So they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of know-how that is transmitted from generation to generation. So it's important for have the information and also to bring on or not to build on this information in order to continue a lot of practices, all practices that is very good in using in this period. I heard the word retro innovation. So it's something that is come from the past and you can use it in the present. I think that's
like Back to the Future.
Yeah, and for the future, of course, yeah. And I also think that your question is very good. Do we need to support the small-scale farmers? Because I need to, in my country, we need to understand very, very clear why we need to support small and medium-scale farmers. Because we need to understand why first, and then what we should do for them. If we don't understand why, it's very easy to support them. Because the people and also the people, they don't understand why I should do this. We need to understand why first.
That's true, because I was at this important event from the Commission on food systems and research in food systems. There was also a representative from a big bank. And then I talked to him about the same topic, and he said, why should we support small-scale farmers? What we do, we give them money so that they are no longer small. And then it also puzzled me. I haven't fully thought it through, but we didn't really connect in that sense. But that's how they would see it. I just said, okay, then it's.
So we need to find different answers, not because of the money. So we need to understand what they are doing actually, what they are doing for us, what they offer us to keep them alive actually.
Yeah, please.
I think we have to say because they feed us. I think we forgot to say that. Also, and because they provide the main ecosystem services that we need, like water and soil and biodiversity and things like that. And we are putting so much pressure on them because we want food, but we also want a lot of things. And it is impossible for a small farmer to be farmer and the marketeer and understand legislation and a lot of things that we ask them, and they just want to produce food.
Yeah, that's true. We in the cities, we are very demanding, right?
And I can add something. The small-scale farmers also people pay taxes, so it's good for the economy. But maybe in some sort of way, public officers have a duty to focus on their activity, to be really comprehensive on what they are doing, on how they can help them, not only with support and subsidies, but also in understanding the way they're working and work with them to get the food they produce.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly, in most of the time, those are the farmers who try. We told about retro innovation. There are farmers who keep some local species of vegetables and maintain this biodiversity or eco-diversity, vegetable diversity and fruit diversity we had earlier, so that it's not a plain, not only, we told it yesterday, not only pink ladies and golden apple, but a full variety of apples or tomatoes, and they can offer the children to taste and discover new areas of taste.
Thank you. Also diversity. The last one.
I just wanted to react also on the bank, because I think when we talk about needing to support, most often even procurers think about we need them to help. We need to help them upscale the company, and if we acknowledge the value of the other aspects that are all mentioned, then the focus shouldn't be upscaling, and the focus shouldn't be making those products less pricey, so if it's connected to other policies like health, environment, etc., then it all comes together.
Thank you all. We keep it there so that it keeps on inspiring us. And then I pass on to the next slide, which I leave up to Francesca. We had really in Coach a lot of discussions exactly about this. We had the farmers, we had sessions just with farmers and farmer associations, like urgency of community-supported agriculture, like Via Campesina, small-scale farmers and peasants, like FIAN and others. And on the other hand, procurers. And there were really, it was sometimes also a tough discussion to understand. But maybe you give a summary, Francesca, of what were the main outcomes of these discussions about this small farm-to-fork procurement.
Yeah, so after having realizing why they are so important, it's also important to understand why it's so difficult for them to join and participate in tender procedures. So as a result of the work that we are doing in Coach, and also taking inspiration of from the FAO publication of homegrown school feeding programs, those are the main barriers that they face in participating in public food procurement processes. So the first one is related to the complexity of the tender procedures, because it's another word comparing with what they do in your daily work. And then the second obstacle is the overemphasis on the price as a work criterion. And so this is detrimental for socioeconomic aspect that procurement should consider also when procuring from them. And sometimes another challenge could be the onerous participation. So it's difficult for them to meet the requirement. And also in terms of capacity of supply, sometimes the procurement requires big quantities to feed all the public canteens, but they may not have such a big capacity in terms of food supply. So this is another important aspect. But also, since their work sometimes is disconnected from the policy and tenders, they may lack information about those opportunities. So this is another point to keep in mind. And last but not least is the long payment periods that could be like a danger for their businesses, because they may not have this capacity. So those are just the main obstacles, but of course we could add others also according to the local context where they are located. And so this is just to set the framework to design more inclusive tender procedures.
Thank you, Francesca. Now you reserve for a little movie. No popcorns, it's not evening, but I think it's good to then, after these discussions, I just press the button, so we turn off the light.
Try. Oh, yeah.
Also this one. I just press and let's see.
No. Okay.
It was too good to be true.
We are experimenting. No.
The sound.
Yeah, the volume is up, but there is some. Yeah, maybe we can.
We will fix it and later with sound. So a bit of suspense. Right? You think it will? No problem. Then we'll fix it for later. So promised after coffee break, a little movie time. Now, after this warm up and focusing together on the topic, we dive into farm to fork public procurement. And before I pass on to Bettina and Johannes, I would like to give a bit of an overview about the EU policy currently on the topics we are working on, and also what we, together with other organizations and cities, are doing in terms of providing concrete ideas to the European Commission and EU policymakers on farm to fork public procurement. So in terms of EU policy, I guess for many of you it's now clear there is a concrete opportunity and momentum right now, and it's called the farm to fork strategy. The farm to fork strategy is part of the EU Green Deal. The EU Green Deal is of this Commission. Ursula von der Leyen, Commission President, she called it the moon landing of the European Commission of the European Union at that time, the EU Green Deal. And the EU Farm to Fork strategy was an ambitious, or is an ambitious strategy within this Green Deal. As you can see, it's about sustainable food production, it's about sustainable food processing, consumption, food waste, and it's overall about moving towards a more healthy and sustainable EU food system. Now, why is it important for us? Because in the Farm to Fork strategy, which was presented, I think, in May 2021, there are two important objectives that are interesting also for us here. One objective of the EU Farm to Fork strategy is indeed to develop minimum mandatory criteria on sustainable public procurement. And the other one is to revise the EU school scheme. And as I told you, and as yesterday we had also a representative there, I mean, the Farm to Fork strategy is coordinated by DG Sante, which is within the Commission, the Department, Directorate General, DG, on health and food security. But for instance, the EU school scheme is coordinated by DG Agriculture. And the EU school scheme is, as you know, it's about providing fruits, vegetables, milk, and also food education to schools. And for us, this was the moment where we said, okay, we have to have different projects, new projects on school meals, on public food procurement, we have been working with several of you on public food procurement. This is really the time where we cannot just hope that there are good criteria being proposed. We really have to make sure that a strong, sustainable public procurement, good criteria, good minimum standards are in this new law. Because that's the second one. There is now a law being developed in the next weeks and months, a proposal of a law by the European Commission. It should be finished by summer, and it will be proposed in September, October. And then it will be the national governments and the council and the parliament, giving their feedback, on this law. Is it any good? So what we have been trying together with other organizations, we developed this campaign called Buy Better Food. Yesterday you saw the cubes with the apples in it. Georgia handed it over also to the Swedish MEP. And it's basically about developing concrete ideas and exchanging with the Commission on what should be this criteria. And one big outcome, and I show you in more detail, is indeed this manifesto on minimum standards in public canteens. So I will go into more detail in it. And here for this manifesto, we are happy already some of you, local governments, some regions already endorsed it, because this helps to show the Commission, look, it's not just us and several organizations, it's also local governments. For instance, here Torres, the mayor, was the first one to endorse it. And now we have different regions already who endorsed it, like the Veneto region, other regions in Italy, We're also in touch with the German ministry and then some regions there. And then a second one was that we said, okay, within this framework of public food procurement, a low-hanging fruit is definitely school meals, because it's difficult to oppose that every child, I mean, all children go to school. Why shouldn't they have as a minimum a good school meal? And ideally, in order to have a lasting impact, also food education, because then you don't only eat good food, which is good for the health and good for the environment, but you also see it where it comes from, you interact with farmers and so on. So also there we have a petition which is currently around more than 12,000 signatures. And then together with IFAM, that was here yesterday, Organics Europe, we lead also a task force on the EU Food Policy Coalition, which is a coalition of 60 NGOs like WWF, Greenpeace. Yesterday you had the representatives here, where we meet regularly with the Commission to push in this task force for sustainable food procurement, to push for minimum standards. And that's always interesting because we hear how they see, and also the first meeting was really with the representatives, high-level representatives from different DGs, DG Agriculture, DG Sante, DG Environment, and so on. And they told us, well, show us, and that was 2-3 years ago, show us that sustainable food procurement is strategically important, show us that it's cost-effective, show us, give us evidence that it doesn't cost too much more, because some say, I hear also sometimes, come on, it's a bit naive, it will cost so much money, and show us that it's working everywhere, because as I said, sometimes the feeling is that it works more in Ghent and Copenhagen, but not in other cities. And that was when we developed this first paper here on the sustainable public procurement of food, a goal within reach, where we really brought evidence about all these points, the business case of sustainable food procurement. But then we said, let's go further, because there was this, I must say, really memorable meeting, because the person working on sustainable food procurement within the EU Green Deal, he's called Wim, the family name is difficult for me, the Buckler. Could you heard it? and he said, he told me about the difficulties, and so I said, like, look, if you would apply the model of Ghent, and upscale it like at European level and adapt it, you already would have the Green Deal, at least on public food procurement, done. And he said, I studied in Ghent, my son studies in Ghent, always agronomy. And then I said, well, if you studied there and you speak the same language, then let's have a meeting with the Ghent people. And it was really great that, so they were all in a room, half a day, and the Commission came with the delegation, Ghent with the delegation. And afterwards, they were very impressed because they could really, for the first time, understand in depth why this criteria, why that criteria, what's the difficulties. Because sometimes in these conferences, 50 minutes presentation, a drink, see you next conference. And then you don't really know in detail. Everyone is always busy. And then, I don't know, they said they will do a mission to Ghent, but I mean, it's half an hour away, So he told me at that occasion, it would be really good, come up with criteria. Tell us what would be on sustainable food procurement targets that would work at EU level, that are legally screened, that are realistic. What are criteria that you could come up that are not there yet? Because we have at the EU level, when you go on the website of DG Environment, you see EU GPP criterion, but that's green public procurement, so it's more like the environmental side. But what is not there yet as a guidance, as targets, as minimum criteria, is really about what are healthy and sustainable public procurement beyond the environmental side. So it was really a long process with all these NGOs and different, let's say, expectations. And we said, okay, what would go beyond GPP, beyond green public procurement? And we came up with 7 areas. Healthy food, and all of it is, now you see it and think, okay, it makes sense, an easy one. But I tell you, it's really difficult because there's not so much guidance around if you say, what is it when you say, I want to procure healthy food? What does it mean? How do you verify it? What is healthy food? Because just saying, okay, deliver me only food that is healthy, or the catering, you need criteria, you need to verify it. And even that one was a long, but there we had a lot of help with from EPA, European Public Health Association, from WHO. But still, for instance, on healthy food, we have good criteria and also targets. The overall targets we say is basically stick to the national guidance on dietary guidance, you know, which are often not coherent. Sometimes they ask for more meat or bigger portions, and also not coherent among different national governments. But on the other hand, there are still difficulties. For instance, if you say you don't want food that is high in salt and sugar, it's really complicated to verify it. It's because there is, for instance, from WHO, this profiling, healthy food profiling. But it's complicated yet. But still, I think we came up with something good. Then organic and other agroecological products. I mean, organic is an easy one. There is a strong label. And the problem is, if someone says it's organic and doesn't have the label, then to verify all this documentation and certificates. And then organizations like Slow Food and others, they said, we really need to bring in agroecology. But that was also a tough one, because I said, okay, then how do you define agroecological? You know, if someone says 10% comes from agroecological sources, how do you define it? There are principles. But if someone tells you, no, you don't worry, all these apples, it's all agroecology. That's difficult, but also there, then we found ways, for instance, also to participatory guarantee schemes, to finding different ways of how do you verify it. This is really a good example. So, for instance, on organic, we say 20%. The target would be 20% from organic sources, and on top, award criteria if you provide also food from agroecological products. Small-scale farmers was one of the toughest, because how do you define it? One said it's 1 million euro up to 1 million euro. The other said, no, it's 10,000 euro turnover. One said the land like 5 people employ. So eventually we came up with up to 100,000 turnover and up to 5 employees. And the land, we leave it, the surface, we leave it up to national regulations. But there we brought in also these innovative examples that you will hear today. Then climate action, I mean, that was definitely an important one. So that's mainly through plant-based food, but we call it plant-based diets. First, we had, for instance, we said that there should be 2 plant-based meals per week, but then we realized that's difficult for many organizations. So we said plant-based diets, which also includes a bit of meat and fish. But overall, I think we propose 2 vegetarian days. But climate action is mainly how do we bring down the greenhouse gas emissions? Well, less food waste, less meat, and more climate smart food chains. Social economy and labor rights, I don't have to go in that. That's mainly do apply to the legislation that is out there. Fair trade, I think now fair trade products are sufficiently widespread to say at least all exotic products, at least the ones where they are exotic. In Portugal, you have the Madeira bananas, but you only have them in your country. Oranges are in some Mediterranean countries, but generally bananas, oranges, coffee. I mean, that is fair trade, so that should be possible to have there a certain percentage. And then the importance, good governance first. So it's really important to have a multi-level food governance. As we said, for instance, about healthy food, it's important. And Denmark is a good example where the Ministry of Food collaborates with cities like Copenhagen, Aarhus on healthy food and healthy food procurement. This is important about the governance, and the different departments work together. So the vertical governance, but also the horizontal ones about different departments, because food is connecting, you know, it's about different departments. And then the market engagement that we will hear later today. It's also typically, for instance, healthy food, we would write what is the target, then procurement criteria, and below then the how to verify them. But we also have a section on why we ask this criteria, and also enabler. So it's not just about, like, for instance, with school food, it's not just about feeding, but it's also like, what about food education? How can you apply a whole school food approach? Because it's not like you in school, you get like a nice organic food plate, and you go outside and it's only fried chicken and chips. You see, so typically, for instance, here, you see here, for instance, organic and other ecological products. The target is 20% from organic, and then award points for other agroecological practices. And then you see how we define it, and later how we verify it. So that's about the manifesto for minimum standards in public canteens. And for the ones who haven't done it, we would really appreciate to have more cities and regions and other bodies who endorse it. I mean, the Commission was very happy with it. And what we try is like to inspire now the ones that work on the minimum standards to include this criteria. And if you endorse it, it's enough to just send one of us from ICLEI in an email, say we endorse it, and send your logo, and that's it. And the other initiative, as I said, as a low-hanging fruit, was to have a petition and to say, okay, there's the public procurement, but when it comes, for instance, to the EU school scheme, food education and school, then why shouldn't we as a minimum standards try, and it's also a legal one, we heard it yesterday, the EU child guarantee and so on, that every child in Europe should have a warm meal, should have a good meal at school, and ideally linked with the food education. And that's something that everyone seems to agree, but still there are many. I'm from Italy. You may think, okay, Italy, such a great food, children love it and all, but in Italy we have high child obesity rates. There are scandals, just recently one about that quality of food in school canteens. Not all the schools have school meals. Do you agree, Sabina, or do you think it's much better? No, I feel like there are some very good examples. Yes.
Having it more standardized.
Yes.
Of course, you have more schools that provide sustainable meals in schools, and therefore there are more exceptions.
Yeah.
It's because every school who has full-time has to provide a sustainable meal to kids. So obviously, in large numbers, scandals.
Yeah.
But obesity is a problem.
Yeah. I like also, like you said, Monica, yesterday, that you compared it, for instance, like to Norway, or for instance, in the EU, for instance, Netherlands, you don't have school meals at all. And for some countries, then it's basically a sandwich. I mean, a sandwich is good today and tomorrow and today, but if you think throughout the year, a sandwich every day, I mean, how much energy does that got? And I also have here a colleague, Maria, outside her uncle is, for instance, a chef in a school in a Basque country, and she said that's what he cooks at school, that's the only meal that those children have. So I think it's much more. And I said it's about the cost, because it's also about the obesity that will cost a lot of the public health systems. So it's also preventing this costs that come with child obesity. But then again, we call it kleiner Teller, große Wirkung, small impact, small plate, big impact, because you can eventually link it to all the SDGs, from education to the environment. So we hope that this healthy school meals with food education will also find a place in this upcoming sustainable food system law. Yeah, that's usually our how we use it on social media. And then we had an event last year during the EU Regions Week where we handed over to the Commission officially the manifesto and also the petition. Here you see from, you should almost stand up now, the mayor of Torres Vedras, Laura Rodriguez. She was really fantastic. A lot of positive energy, all the time a good mood. And she handed over to Alexandra Angelokopoulou. She's the head of unit at DG Sante, working on the farm to fork strategy. And they loved particularly that the manifesto is also legally screened. That was for us important. There's you won't find the word local in it, but if you really apply this criteria, you will end up with local. And that's it from my side. And are there any questions on what I presented before I hand over to Copenhagen? It was clear. Well, that's it. And I pass on the stick to you and Johanna.
So here's this EU public procurement principles and thresholds. And that's kind of right. That was actually the first title we worked with, because then the second one was the wheel of procurement, because I thought we would be a diverse group of people here. And reading that, I was almost getting tired in the beginning. Sorry, but it's because for me, I once a year do education for Eating City Summer Campus together with Tamara and many others also, but where we teach many young people from around the world that are chefs and nutritionists and procurement people also working in law, what it is to do procurement. Others come telling about governance, food governance and strategies. I come and, of course, do the procurement dance, as I call it. And then we have somebody coming telling about soil quality and things like that. In the first years, I didn't bring this one drawing, but for me, suddenly somebody was like, I cannot visualize this. What is it? How does it happen? So I started drawing, and then actually I liked the drawing so much that I use it a lot, because it can be hard to visualize what is it that a procurement lawyer actually goes through. This sounds bad, but it's like we have a wheel that we continuously follow in every kind of procurement. This could be not just food, it's in all kind of buying that we do. So we have the idea, it can be a political goal saying we want to achieve this. It can also be something that we need to spend public money on. And when we have this, we have to do a procurement, because we have to put out for competition what we are buying, because we're spending public money. We have the responsibility to use the public money as good as possible in all means. To do this, we also have interest groups. It can be the employees in the municipality or in the government that has to use the contract that we are creating. Those are, of course, our interest group. They have to, and it can also be the citizens, because they are the final recipient of the meal. But then we also have the market. We also have to talk with them, because we want to know if they can meet the demand that we are putting into the criteria. And when we noticed this, like we gathered both, what is it that we need to buy? What is it that what effect will it have on a certain group of people that are working with what we need to buy? We look at where we need to buy it from. Then here comes the procurement officer's role, right here in the writing process, because that's where everything for me at least really starts. I do all the dialogue, yes, but I also then gather everything into a procurement material. And this is where it gets interesting when we're talking about small scale farmers, because we see them when we do the market analysis. We'll talk about this in a little while. And sometimes if we just look at big scale, because often in the municipality or government or state, you will have large money you have to buy for many people. So it will be normal reaction for a lawyer and an economic like me to look at the big scale. It's easier. They're professional. It's fast. You do one contract, you have everything. But is it wisely? Probably not. So you have to look at the whole market, because it also says in the directive we have to open up for tenders for the market. So Johannes, you will tell a little bit more about that. But once you realize how you have to construct your contract, you'll do that within the writing process. So you combine what you saw on the market with what you need to procure, with the needs of the interest group. And then you sit in your little house and you start writing the things, and then comes out a tender material that you then publish. You do the tender material if it's above threshold. So then you publish it on the EU web, and everybody can see it, because we have these codes. So a specific number for food, and everybody who's interested in giving a bid to food, they can register somewhere with this number, and then they will get a notification saying, oh, Denmark wants to buy food. They can also filter, so they only get for the countries where they want to buy or give a bid. And then they see my tender material, they give a bid. I actually miss a drawing somebody told me recently, so I maybe have to do a new one, because we will have the market here writing the bids. But of course, I'm so self-centered, so I did this for me. This is my world. So anyway, so then I do the evaluation when it comes back. I find out who meet my criteria that I put into the tender material, building upon all the knowledge I have from here, who meet those criteria best, and we find a winner. And then the delivery begins, and often it's a 4-year period. So in Denmark, at least, we do 2 years that are binding, and then +1, if they do good. Some do 4 years binding, some do 1. Others now start to do 6 years. It depends on what you can argue. That's saying that this is a heavy burden to do this procurement, blah, 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 blah. So, but of course you need, then I use the word negotiation, and maybe that's wrong and maybe it's right, but we need a little bit of adjustment during the contract period because 4 years is a long time and a lot of things can happen. So we need to adjust, but it has to be within the legal framework of what we already wrote in the tender material. And that is why sometimes, especially when they go for large company, they are so big tender materials, because we have to think about everything that can happen in that 4-year period and more too. Because so we have to make sure, and as a lawyer, I really want to make sure that nothing fails or happen. That is also why in this process, when you do some of these things, sometimes you can think maybe 4 years is too much for a small scale farmer. So this is also something we should consider when we're doing procurement for smaller farmers or enterprises. Emily helped me make it.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah. It's a dialogue. Hopefully.
Yeah, but then I wonder, is it too little or too much for 4 years, or could it be also too little? Is it also like a guarantee for small scale farmer to know, okay, I deliver to my city for 6 years, so for the next 6 years, we are.
I think that's a dialogue we have to have with farmers individually and depending on what kind of contract. For example, I will tell more about my potato contract. He's a well-established farmer, the one who I gained a contract with.
Yeah.
He knows his process. He could actually do more than 1 year, but he says, I don't know you. You seem nice. Maybe we can play more than 1 year, but I would like as a certainty just to have 1 year to begin with. This is a new contract. This is new for me. Maybe 2. So I convinced him to 2 because we are inventing things. I will tell more about that later on the potato tender. But so we agreed on 2. But for me, most farmers actually say 1 year. But then I have, for example, asparagus. They say we need at least 2 because we need to plant the asparagus. They need to grow, and then next year we can harvest them. So 1 year would definitely not work for us because I will not even have planted the asparagus. So we will have a contract for 1 year where you cannot buy any, and then next year you can start buying things like that. So I think here we have to meet the farmers on their ground. And that is also then the legal hook to why you make it shorter than 4 years. So we just made it a little bit nice. So then when we do the teaching material finished in the book, you will be able to recognize this is my drawing done by Emily in a nicer way so that we can, not with my kid's drawing, but it should actually say the same. There's a funny look to this one also, because when we start then awarding contract and the contract phase over here, we also have another phase where we control the contract and we follow up and the delivery starts. And if the kitchen is not happy, they will go back to the contract manager and then we'll talk again. So there's a whole nother loop over here that continuously roll over. We tried to draw it, it didn't work out that well. So for the EU procurement and principles, I will leave it to Johannes because he's so much better at talking EU regulations than I am.
Yes, so as most of you probably would know, all contracts of an economical value above the thresholds, beautiful word when you normally speak in Danish, needs to be tendered in accordance with the directive rules. And this links back to the first question that Peter posed for us today. Do we need to support small and medium scale enterprises? Well, the EU certainly seems to think so, because when you read the preambles of the procurement directive, it's clear that the goal, the aim of the procurement directive is not in itself to use the methods in the directive. The goals of the directives are much broader. The baseline for the directive is the EU's 4 freedoms: the free movement of goods, services, capital, and workers. But when you dive a bit deeper into it, there are also a lot of other different things that you are trying to regulate through this. It's done to ensure that there is very efficient competition between suppliers in the whole of the EU, in the whole of the inner market, and it's also used to combat corruption and other things. But the goal in itself of the directive is not to use the methods in it. All the methods are just means to reach these goals. And in the preambles 78 of the directive, and this is not written in the slides, so you will just have to remember it. It says that all contracting as well authorities should take steps to ensure that small and medium-scale enterprises have much better chances of winning public contracts. So this way that we will go through of subdividing contracts into lots, it's actually supported in the preambles of the directive. Of course, you should not do these things to circumvent the rules, but it's actually as well encouraged by the EU that you should primarily make smaller contracts that ensure that small and medium-scale enterprises have an opportunity to win public contracts. All these thresholds, you probably know them. They are dynamic. They are as well adjusted over 2-year periods where you take into account inflation and other things. The current thresholds are set out in this Commission communication from 2021, and they cover this year, and also covered last year. I think the next slide has an overview. You probably know them. Food is considered goods. As Bettina mentioned, that all these codes, it's the CPV vocabulary. There are 9,500 CPV codes, which divide goods and services and social and specific services into different codes. Food is considered goods, and goods have the lowest threshold, while catering, for an example, is considered a social and specific service with a much higher threshold. All these social and specific services are services that you recognize are normally done nationally, since they require some sort of national knowledge of how your national market works. It's education, for an example. Normally contracts for education wouldn't be very as well attractive to suppliers in other member states. So you have from the EU as well acknowledge that there are certain contracts, there are certain services that you normally wouldn't as well award across borders. I don't know if you know it, but even though we have these EU public procurement rules where the tenders have to go out and all suppliers from all member states can bid equally, but in reality, it's only 2% of contracts that are awarded across borders. So 98% of contracts that are tendered in the EU are awarded to suppliers, but in the country where the contracting authority is also established. It's 5% of the value, so it's only bigger contracts that are awarded across borders. And this makes as well economical sense, since there are a lot of transactional costs related to bidding on foreign contracts. This is an overview of the thresholds, and you can see the local governments, which most of you represent. It's marked here with a little oval. For now, the threshold, and this overview is from when the new thresholds came in effect on the 1st of January 2022. So the current threshold for supplies that is goods and normal services is 250,000 euros for the contract value, and for these social and other specific services, it's 750,000 euros. And the point of all of this is that one way to ensure that you can buy locally well-produced food, which goes back to Peter also mentioning it in the manifesto, you cannot, and this is a clear don't, you cannot mention in your tender material that you will only accept locally well-produced food. This is in direct violation of the 4 freedoms, since you are cutting off suppliers from other member states. So this is a clear don't. But there are a lot of other ways around this. And the first one is direct contracting below the threshold. If you can objectively justify that the value of your contract is below the thresholds, then you can contract directly. You're only regulated by national law. Since you are not above the thresholds, you are not bound to use the methods in the directive. I can give an example. The Danish public procurement law, which is an implementation of the current directive, it's almost 200 articles long. There's one single article that regulates procurement below these thresholds. It's Article 193 in the Danish public procurement law, and it really only says that when you do this, you don't have to even gather more than one offer. You only have to ensure that you get a price that is a normal market price. But you cannot pay over the odds for what you're getting. And this is the only real better criteria that you have to justify as a contracting authority in Denmark when you do contracts below these thresholds. So it's obvious that if you have a contract below these thresholds, you can actively pursue to get a local supplier. And this is also as an objective. But in Danish law, there would be nobody who would challenge this, because there are a lot of good reasons for doing this. Going back to Peter's question, if you look at it from a purely economical scale, it's good for a large supply economy to have a lot of different suppliers, since it combats monopolies and as well oligopolies, where we have a few large providers. So it's really just ensuring that there is effective competition between a lot of suppliers, and you also from an as well environmental point of view, you will reduce transport emissions and other things that are very considered very universally good in Danish public law. So when you do this, of course, you cannot just divide your contracts into smaller lots to circumvent the directive, of course. This is stated in Article 5, Section 3 of the directive, that says a procurement shall not be subdivided with the effect of preventing it from falling within the scope of this directive unless justified by objective reasons. And this goes back to what I mentioned, that part of the justification for these rules is to combat corruption and nepotism and other things that might be possible. But if you could just subdivide your large contract into small lots and give it to all your local friends. So if you have an objective reason for doing this, then it's all right. And I have
a question.
Yes.
Could you go to the previous slide?
This one?
Yeah, for instance.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that I got it right, because so here it says that if you are a local government, like here, for instance, Torshveders, Ghent, Copenhagen, if you purchase food for canteens, the threshold is 215,000, right? So below 215,000, you don't have to tender EU-wide, let's say.
Exactly.
Yes. But then you say at the same time, below 215,000, you could purchase local food.
Because you can contract directly. So you're not bound by the EU rules of tendering.
But still
the threshold
the procurement.
750, because it's catering is specific service.
Catering is a specific service.
So
yes.
But my point is, still the principles like non-discrimination, proportionality, mutual recognition. I mean, they also
apply to national law. Yeah. But there is no demand, at least not in Danish national law, that you have to gather offers from suppliers in other member states. There is one.
But then it's
there's one rule that you always have to consider if there is if there is an interest from other member states. And when you do this, you have to consider what is the value of the contract, and are you located near another member state. For Copenhagen, they're located near Sweden, so you always have to consider, would this contract be of interest to a Swedish supplier? And if you reach the conclusion that it might be, then you have an obligation to tender it and to make it public that you are going to do this contract, even if it is below the threshold. Yes?
Yeah, I think that we also have to think about what does local mean, because if we are thinking just about national borders, okay, but also internally in a country, I would say that if the directive is not applying because of the thresholds, in any case, we should look at national law, because then you have specific principles orienting national law. And for example, in France, you have again the same treaty principles,
yes.
The European treaty principles in national law.
Yeah.
So you cannot specifically discriminate local and ask for local in a very express way.
No, but again, as always, you have to objectively justify it. And as with a lot of law, it's how you write it, it's how you word it that's important. Because you can go a long way if you're good at writing this, and if you're good at justifying why you're doing this. If you just say, I just want to buy local foods because that's just what my politicians want, then it's a lot harder to justify than if you give your objective reason as to why you're doing this. You're doing this to reduce transport emissions. You're doing this to ensure that there is a local food resilience. All these good reasons that we discussed earlier can be used to objectively justify these things. For these circumvention rules, of course, if you do have a contract, let's say, for example, Copenhagen, and Bettina is the chief procurement officer for food. So obviously, if she made one large contract of buying food, that would be far above these thresholds. But if she, for some objective reason, could subdivide these food procurements into smaller contracts, focusing on just, let's say, a single group of food, let's say potatoes, let's say honey, or whatever. This would, at least in Danish standards, this would be an objectively justified reason for doing this if there is a singular market for this product only. If there are potato suppliers only, so there is a market for potatoes. Giving another example, I wouldn't suppose there would be a market for, let's say, only pepper. But there would most certainly be a market focusing only on trading spices. So I wouldn't suppose you could, but could divide your spice procurement into a contract for pepper only. This is not as well objectively justified, but dividing your food procurement into different contracts for different products is objectively justified.
It's a way of opening up the market. Yeah. So yeah.
So you ensure that small as well specific suppliers who maybe operate only on producing potatoes get access to public contracts as well.
No, my doubt is wasn't about the subdivision, because we are still in an indirect way of favoring local, but on the expressly
yes, exactly.
mention of local. That
well, it wouldn't be
many times is not allowed.
Well, I can say with absolute certainty it is allowed in Denmark, at least. But when nobody would bat an eyelid. But if you wrote this,
no, but we wouldn't put. I would not word it as a lawyer. I would not word it. I want to buy these potatoes because they are local.
No, exactly.
I would word it saying, I want to buy these. Open up my tenders because I have a market that are interested in giving a direct bid in the local area. So I have to open up so that they can give a direct bid. If they win, or if the ones in Sweden or Germany wins, then it's fine. I don't care. But I will open up, and if they are ones in Sweden and Germany that will bid, then I will have to make it an EU tender, even though it's below threshold.
Yes.
So that's how it works. But often you will, when I go to Sweden then and ask, do you want to give a bid to my potato tender? They look at me like, are you crazy? For that amount? No. Germany, definitely not, because we are one way with the bridge and the other way with the boat. It's too expensive for them, so they will gain. No, no, no. Maybe when you are in a country with just a road as a border, then maybe they will, and then you will have to make the EU tender. So that's not linked so specifically to the thresholds. It's more linked to the borders, and do others from other borders have, or countries have to give a bid. It's just to say that
as even under national law,
sometimes
you always need to justify what you're doing as well objectively. And I wouldn't write that I'm buying these products only because they're local. Never. I would write all my good objective reasons for going with this local supplier. And there are a lot of good as well objective reasons, cutting down transport emissions, all these things. But if you look at this from a national perspective, as you said, let's say you are a municipality very near the border in northern Italy to Switzerland or to Austria. It would obviously be better to buy from a small-scale farmer in your neighboring country than to buy from a small-scale farmer at the bottom of Italy, because they would need to transport it. So even though it would still be a pure national, as well Italian contract, it's obviously not the best way to meet your objective and reasonable goals.
You're talking about threshold, but it's for the full procurement, for the full market you are writing. I'm not going to have a market for paper, a market for chimneys,
no, exactly.
So even if the CPV is well developed, my concern is about my whole need in my market. Understand?
I'm not sure. Please.
The threshold is for your market.
Yes.
So if I even if I can allocate it much.
As let's say that you are buying red potatoes through a large-scale supplier that also supplies you with other vegetables and all this. If there
actually we're gonna have a specific market for potatoes as well.
Well, it depends on, but if there are suppliers that offer only potatoes, let's say that, yeah, probably, then there is a market ready for potatoes only.
Yeah.
I used the example of spices and pepper, since there probably are no suppliers that only supplies pepper, but there are most probably suppliers that only trade spices. So there is a market for spices.
Yeah.
A separate market for spices, and as such, it would be as well objectively justified to subdivide a contract only for spices down below the thresholds.
Yeah, but the efficiency of having...
Yes, exactly. And we're going to touch on that as well, because then you would end up with, let's say, 200 separate contracts, which takes a lot of as well the administration that you do, and we'll touch on that, of course, as well.
Good, ambitious procurement, danke.
Securing employment, it's also called.
Yes, there is
the lawyers.
Yeah.
For organic, very important, because we have a lot of wholesalers that are specialized in organic, but you also have wholesalers with a small amount of organic. But if you do your preparations, you'll see that you don't have a lot of options when you choose, like for instance, 10% or 20% organic. Those wholesalers that have a mixed variety of products, they won't be able to
bid exactly.
20%.
Exactly.
So it's
this is another way of
to separate.
Yes.
Okay.
This is another way of as about affecting who can bid on your contracts, which we will also touch on. The indirect way of affecting this. Just to round up, you can use direct contracting below the thresholds if such a demand is lawful under relevant national law, which was what we was discussing earlier. But of course, in Denmark, all these principles of non-discrimination and all these standard EU principles, of course, do also apply in national law. And you would never justify buying from a local producer just because they're local, or because they're Danish, or let's say, or because they are very Catholic, or whatever. All of these inobjective reasons. You would never use them if you are just a minimally skilled procurement lawyer. I would say so. Not even if you are a procurement lawyer, but just somebody with a normally working mind. You probably wouldn't, as well award a contract for some unobjective reason. Anyway, you can of course not subdivide these contracts as subdivide them artificially to circumvent the directive, but when you read the preambles of the directive, it's clear that one of the goals is to open up, even when you have contracts that are far above the thresholds, you have to consider also dividing these contracts into smaller lots to ensure that SMEs can bid for them. If you don't do it, you have to at least explain why you didn't do it. That's how it works in Denmark as well. Up until now, it has been non-punishable, but if you forgot it, but with the latest revision of the Danish public procurement law, you can now actually get fines if you don't follow this. Yes, contracting small amounts of different products. I went over it. For an example, when potatoes through one contract, honey through another, is a concrete way to ensure that you can buy locally where they produce goods and support small farm businesses, since it would probably fall below the thresholds, and also the contract would be of an economic size that these small-scale producers can actually meet, since they are small-scale producers. So normally they wouldn't be able to, even if they could bid for a large public contract as well above the thresholds, follow all the methods of the directive, they normally wouldn't have the production capacity to deliver this. So, also, as I said, I think you will get these slides, you will have it. It is assumed that the existence of individual markets for different products is sufficient objective reason for the division into small contracts. The contract thing, as well, authority does carry the burden of proof, this being the case of course, as with all other things that you do, you carry the burden of proof that you're not circumventing the directive. Yes, and as somebody brought up, subdividing the procurement of food into a multitude of contracts does obviously as well require a lot more administrative work and organization, since there will be several contractual relationships. And other ways of going around this is, let's say that
working with this.
Inside this legal framework. Let's say that even if you do this, you still are such a large buyer that you'll still go far above these thresholds, and you cannot use that. Then you could consider. We have this discussion first. So
yeah,
yes.
I was wondering, do you have other slides for this session?
Well, I think
anyway.
No, but it's going into what we're going to speak about later. So
thank you. Please stay here. Maybe Bettina, you also come in front. We miraculously are on time, back on time. So are there questions? There were already questions. We can also take a comfy seat.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's good to stand.
You're sportive in
You're welcome
Denmark.
also if you feel.
Are there any questions, doubts, opposition, challenges?
it's all about the objective justification of what you do, even below the thresholds.
Yeah.
Maybe just a doubt. I still struggle to understand the use of the nomenclature, like the vocabulary, the common
the CPV?
vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yes. Are we linked to it, like also to define the subject matter of the contract, in the sense that it's there that we find the
thresholds,
the market, the individual markets for the products, or?
No, it's not bound by the CPV, because the CPV is incomplete. It's very, very specific on certain goods, and it's very unspecific on other goods. But you cannot use the CPV vocabulary as a guide to which individual markets exist. Also, that will always be a very concrete, very concrete view on your region, because it might differ a lot from different regions and different cities.
And there's not one in Denmark on potatoes, for example.
Exactly.
So I will use the one for vegetables on that one.
You have a national nomenclature?
No. As we only use the CPV vocabulary, also for countries below the threshold.
This is something interesting, because actually some countries have their own nomenclature.
Okay.
I know that France used to have one until 2001, and then they don't have anymore. So there is more flexibility also.
There is also some wiggle room as within these CPV codes, because as I wrote earlier, food is considered goods with the low threshold, but catering as a service is considered a social and specific service with the far higher threshold. And it's not always but completely clear what you're actually buying. Is it a good only, or is it a service, or is it a combined contract, which is often the case in reality?
On the back seat there, do you agree on this? All? No, it's okay. No, it's okay, because I do you agree that it's a service contract when you do catering?
I don't agree. We just said that always a discussion can go on for hours and days, whether it's goods or services. So
yeah, and why? Because this is one of the nerdy thing, and that's why we're here. It's a nerdy discussion, and so let's bring it up. Why can we have this discussion of? Because I just buy what Johanna say on this one. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, well, because I don't do that much catering contracts, so it's.
For me, it's school catering. They just deliver, and we do all the things.
Yes.
So for me, it's a contract of not service. And with elderly folks, they serve the food, but they also cook. So then for me, it's
and this actually underlines how unspecific the CPV codes are, because what does really constitute catering? It's not exactly clear where you set the line, but yeah, normally you can go far on just using the CPV codes and justifying.
Wouldn't it be? I'm asking. This is how Johannes and we normally work when I'm trying to think that I don't understand what he's actually saying, and I often actually don't. So, wouldn't it be looking at the economics of the things that you buy and saying, so how large amount does go for the food part? How much amount does go for them preparing the food and delivering it to us? And if the more than half, 60% goes for the other than the food, then it must be the service
normally, as this is exactly how you define mixed contracts, because a lot of the contracts that you actually do as a public authority are mixed contracts. It's very rarely one or the other. So the rules on mixed contracts is that it's the main economic part that defines whether it is a goods contract, service contract, or a social and specific services contract. But this is not set in stone. So as I said, you can work within these CPV vocabulary codes, and I could easily justify using the catering code for a contract where they just almost deliver the food to you, but in the schools, and when you prepare it in the kitchen. Yes, that's all right.
So, but let's have the coffee now, and let's continue the discussion, because I like to be almost on time. So I'm sorry.
Oh la la, Bettina.
Sorry.
Thank you all. So we convene like at 11:15 more or less. No.
Vil du formulere for alle? Altså,
Ce la faremo?
Sì.
Please be seated for the showtime from Copenhagen.
Thank you, Peter.
Er det ikke dig først, eller?
Jeg tror, det kan være det der, men det kan vi jo lige se.
Skal vi vente på ellers plads?
Did you also taste this sweet desserts, vegan, the balls? I mean, it's really good.
So good.
Amazing, I must say, it's the best catering we got so far, because it's also very much local, small farmers, the way they do it. But I want to take any time of you, Bettina and Johannes, I pass on to you.
Yes, I think that's... So this might be my slide. Well, the directive has a certain article on market consultations. And in reality, from the old 2004 directive, there was no provision on this. So it's just that it developed in case law, and it was codified with the 2014 with the procurement directive. I vaguely remember when I started out, fresh out of school, working with Bettina, there were some older procurement specialists that had a lot of doubts on whether they could use market consultations, since there had been some case law from the Danish Complaints Board that said that you would easily be how do you, what was, well, you could very easily be disqualified from bidding if you had discussions with the contracting authority beforehand. And there was this kind of bad practice that was rectified later. So now I think everybody who works with public procurement has a common understanding that you can have market consultations and you can actually discuss pretty specific details, both of your requirements, of your demands, and of your contract provisions, and all other things. And you can do this on a large scale with a lot of participants at the same time, and you can also do it bilaterally, where you meet with certain suppliers to discuss this. It's a bit paradoxical that when you have these consultations, you have a pretty far-ranging right to as a very talk one-on-one with all these suppliers, and once you press the button and you have a tender, you are far more limited in what you can discuss, as everything has to be in writing. You have to answer questions that are made available to all contestants at the same time, and as anonymous form and all that. But this is the article, and what it says that you may conduct market consultations with a view to preparing the procurement and informing economic operators of their procurement plans and requirements. This is also in line with one other goal of the new directive. I say this since the 14 directive is a new directive, and in my view, it also ties in with that you have a focus on opening up the more complex methods in the directive that are for use. In the old directive, the complex methods such as very competitive dialogue and other had some pretty limited as restrictions on when you could use them. And it was a declared goal to open up these methods to the contracting as well authorities more, since market consultations is an ingrained part of a competitive dialogue, for an example. Anyway, I think the next slide is a softer one that Bettina might. Yes.
Yep.
Of all the good things that can come out of
your slide.
Maybe.
But so, as we see it, market engagement can, of course, be very useful, because, for example, when I do market engagement, I always talk with them about all the things that my politicians want. So, for example, when we talked about the wheel of procurement, that's why it's so good that I start with it. We have the interest group first, then we have the market consultation. So what I found out with the interest group can also be the politicians. What do they want? What do we want on a local level? What do we want on the state level? What do we want on the EU level? Farm to fork procurement. What do we want on the UN level? Sustainable Development Goals. We all said yes to these. So all this, I get crazy ideas about, figuring out how to put them into the procurement. And of course, I need to talk with the market about it. Also, when we have social goals, sometimes it can also be very strict, at least in Copenhagen. We have new social goals where it's all the way to the farmer's side that we will control the working conditions. And they come visit all the way to the farmer's side, even though it's a wholesaler contract we have. So to prepare the market, I must say, I do market consultations. Often I do them one by one to begin with, like when we see the lightning ball of now we have to do a procurement, now we start the process. I look at the market saying, who might be interested? And should I divide it into different? So I talk with many different stakeholders of the market. And I tell them about these ideas one-on-one, because often they are more keen to tell you their secrets when we meet one-on-one. If they meet with their competitors, they will be very quiet.
Yeah, it's a very quiet meeting.
It's a monologue almost, yes.
Question on this, because when we try to organize market engagement in Italy, the main concern is that all possible interested stakeholders should get the same information. And for this reason, everybody prefers to organize group meetings and that are recorded, and that's how do you manage this? This is also written in.
But this is even before I start writing. Okay, this is just when I'm examining what's out there. Nobody can also tell me you're not allowed to read this newspaper because some certain firm wrote something here. You gather information, and that's why you are also allowed to talk with them. It's just research. Where are you going? What are you doing? And then when you start writing your tender, and when I do, then I do a joint market dialogue.
Okay.
Afterwards.
So you do it much.
I do it and I do it continuously, because now I'm so lucky that I only work with food procurement. So I talk with them all the time. I be like, so what if you knew? And once a year or something, I touch base on the different. But if I was a normal procurement lawyer doing different kind of procurement, I would do it once the procurement land on my desk. I would do the market research, see who are available here at the market, who would be my market stakeholders, and then I'll contact them, have an hour interview. They would come visit me. They would have the bad municipal coffee that we serve, and then they will leave.
Definitely. I'm even scared of inviting directly people, so they publish. Yeah.
But this is right.
This is right, and also I think, just as we discussed earlier, with these contracts below the threshold, in certain member states there is a lot of more focus on avoiding discrimination based on nationality.
Yeah, and we have the little problem with corruption.
Oh,
yes. So we have a specific national guidelines.
But honestly, I'm not sure whether it's because when Italy is trying to be extremely risk averse, or Denmark is just a pirate state.
Pirates, what a combination. Oh my God.
But all the best pirates are the ones that you cannot recognize.
But so looking only at the provision from the directive, it is clear that when you are in this preliminary phase before the formal tendering process, you have a very large access to speaking with the market.
What we did actually, because as Johannes said, when I started in 2009 in the municipality, I had a lot of colleagues saying, "No, don't talk to anybody." I'm like,
because they can be disqualified.
How should I then know? I was a shipping agent before I started in the municipality. Then I was, yes, a business commercial lawyer, but I was focusing on stock exchange and real estate. I knew nothing about food, nothing about procurement. How on earth was I supposed to do a food procurement without talking with anybody? I'm like, that.
You didn't even eat food back then.
It's not, I didn't even eat food. And I'm a lousy cook, so I couldn't even go back into my own backyard. So I had to talk with somebody. And that's actually when I then met them saying, no, you're not allowed. We made this market dialogue book so that we could share. And Johannes, he actually wrote it. So that's helped a lot, actually.
And I can actually even mention that in the notes for the Danish procurement law, for this exact provision in the Danish procurement law, which is Article 39, it actually mentions that several municipalities have taken the front foot on this and written guides. And this is the now applied standard in Denmark. So I like to think that we were as well at least involved in moving this in Denmark.
Yeah. Tamara.
Yeah, so I'm a Belgian, so we're always a bit chaotic and a bit confused because we have a language border running through our country, so we are a bit the north of Europe and a bit the south of Europe. So we also have a tendency to a little bit of corruption. Also, which part of the country? we're all sensitive to that. So we're Belgians, we're good at things like that. We fix everything. But anyway, what we do is that even if we have this informal chats for the market research, we do make notes.
Do you publish something?
No, but you can publish them. Yeah. But we keep it for us.
Yes.
We make up the questions.
There is a problem.
This is a good idea.
Before we go to the market, we make up the questions that we want to use.
But
during the market research, and then we keep it on our network so that it's free. And if they want to ask, so if something happens, then we have something.
Backing up.
Yeah, and what also happens is that you can have these informal dialogues, and while going through the process, you learn things. So if you're at number 5, you're talking to, you can already have different questions than you had when the first one. That stops you then from going back to the first and ask these extra questions and also noting it.
But actually, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. And normally, when I advise our clients, our municipal clients, I actually always advise them to do this. You can also, in some ways, you can, as we refrain from the Danish National Publicity Law and the Danish National Public Governance Act, that you have some kind of duty to put down in writing when there are some certain developments in cases. It's not entirely clear that a market dialogue does comply with these. I don't think you can say there is an obligation to do it, but I would always as well advise our clients where to do it so as to cover their own assets.
But I also do this, but I can always also say nobody's recording the meeting, so you cannot prove what has been, even though you write that these were the questions I was supposed to ask. But then if our talk here takes a U-turn suddenly, it will, but then again,
if you act like a responsible citizen,
yeah.
We have some guidelines.
Exactly.
We have to act upon.
Yeah.
As the pirate state again, it's just Bettina talking about whatever she wants.
And then if we start writing the tender and then there are questions, then we will publish it.
Yeah. But that's the next step.
Yeah,
actually.
It is.
Because
it's not with the questions that you ask them, it's with what you tell them. It's the information you pass on. That's where the problem lies. It's like bid-rigging,
So they're scared that once you talk with Johannes, I'll go tell the same to Peter. So
that's the concern.
About what we?
That's trust.
Yes,
Those are gentlemen agreements. Is that as an authority, a government, you have the responsibility to keep certain information to yourself. You have to be discreet. You cannot go and tell the competitioners what this process these guys invented. You cannot do that. They can sue you for that. You can't do that. You have to
actually.
They can sue you if they are not the ones that you are facilitating.
If you
know what I mean? It's like you do things disclosed.
You cannot share company secrets.
No. Well, this is a very, very interesting discussion, and normally I would expect all member states to have some kind of freedom of information acts that regulate this. We do certainly in Denmark, and also the directive does have a few provisions on how you should treat confidential information. It's not really that explicit since most countries have their own national laws that govern this issue.
But we both have an obligation if we are asked by any public person that they want to see something. If it's not a company secret, we have to share it. So if somebody asks me, can I see the notes from this and that meeting? I would go to the company saying, I have been asked to share the notes. Would it be okay with you? And then we'll say, no, you have to black out this and that. Then I'll go to another lawyer saying, they want this and that blacked out. Do you agree on that? Because I'm a part of it, so I cannot. So then the lawyer would say, yes, this, no, that. And I'll go saying, okay, our lawyer decided this, so we have the say-so, and then we'll publish whatever. So they also have a danger in. But actually, when we started, the companies, of course, did not trust me. Why should they? They didn't know me. I started having these consultations. They didn't say that much, actually. Now, many years later, because it was in 2009 I started this work, we actually managed to build up such a good relationship that we have a project where we work on preventing food waste at their facilities, at the supplier side facilities. And we have 2 of the biggest suppliers in Denmark in the same room talking about what they throw out, and it is top secret for them. So it's really a fun project. We have a scientist following it, and then me as the procurement lawyer. And so we are on teams, and when they discuss their own data, they lock out the other parts, and then they talk about the data, and then because we are neutral, they trust us so much that we can talk about without mentioning their data and without mentioning what is confidential. So this is where you can move from when we started that it is not allowed, you cannot talk, and the firms did not want to talk. So
yeah, but for us the problem is not what company tells us.
No.
It's reverse, is what the public administration tells the company.
Yeah,
that's where
other companies.
exactly.
Yes, but that's why they were not comfortable with us, because they were scared that what we could say to, and also about what we would say about the procurement. Would we tell Peter something that I wouldn't tell Johannes and things like that?
Completely different context. It's not that the worry that.
Well,
okay.
No.
True, because I think that in a Danish context, when you are from a company, you would view the public administration as only catering to their own interests. So I don't even think you would consider that they would share your secrets with another company, but because you have so much trust in your public institutions. I know that this differs from member state to member state based on as well historical facts and other stuff like that. But in general, your view would be that any secret that you share with a public servant would be kept secret.
That's
so
the thing in Italy. Nobody thinks, no company will think that the public administration will share the secrets.
Yeah.
The problem that public administrations have in justifying one-to-one meetings with private companies
is to give them different information.
Is that they might give them, the public administration might give them information that will make them advantaged when the tender comes out. So like, I will tell you, just you, that we will need the Ecolabel certification for whatever in 3 years time. So you have the time to get the Ecolabel and you'll be advantaged. That's why they don't want to do one-to-one. And obviously this means that the market engagement we have is on a much superficial way, because we bring all the companies together. They tell us what the difficulties they have in organizing the service or whatever, but we don't get to the point where they tell us the specific bonuses and so on.
I think it would be for you, like it was for us, a journey to do, because it was not easy to begin with. And I had the same doubts as you do. And I was actually doubting and being scared that they would be locked out for competition, because the counterpart would say, oh, but you told them, and now you can see that they are better in this than we are because you had a meeting with them. So I get what you're saying, but we work with it, and right now it works. Right now, at least, but I can And
actually, as this leads over into as my advisory barring. So, if you have taken the advice of a certain economic by the participant, then either they should be barred from the tender, or you can mitigate this by sharing this information to everybody at the same time. I think this touches on some of the points that you are considering, because to mitigate the chance that you would have to bar them from by competing, you can do this by sharing all of this. as well information, so everybody has the same basis of everybody submitting their bids. And it's even written into the directive because this is written on how.
That's why we also have it in the Italian law.
I get an idea though. And this is now, so this is not completely thought through. That's how my brain sometimes works.
Don't worry, I'm on the same line.
So if you, in the beginning, when you get the idea, you have to do the procurement, you talk with the stakeholders, you talk with the market. Not yet. You want to talk with the market.
Yeah.
You know what political goals you want to deal with in your procurement. So you already write your specification, kind of a draft, and this is what you bring to the table. Then the firms, they will know that you're talking out from this specification with all of them. Back to Tamara saying we make a note and we journalize it. So here you have your note already. You know what you're talking about. You will stick within these because this is the criteria that will go into your procurement. So you have them one-on-one. You make the notes from each company, you put them in the file saying, yes, they are public. So, but only if somebody asks, then we have to show them. Otherwise, they will stay with me. I will not share them anything. So maybe this could be a solution to you because then when you do the final tender, because this is like my next slide after this one, you will do the joint market consultations where they see the final tender and then they will see that nothing changed. So nobody will feel this, oh, but she told this and now she put this in. So, okay, but I just wanted to say all this hustle about the market dialogue and everything. We do that, at least I do this for these people to make sure that they are happy, to make sure that their job is done easier because the contract should just work. They shouldn't think about all this. So I need to know how their everyday life is, how they can use everything. And that is also what should be shown in the contract that we make so that everyday life becomes more easy for them. Because when they started talking with me, they didn't look like that, I promise you. So that was a big journey to walk because they were really not liking lawyers and definitely not the one who made their procurement because it didn't work and nobody wanted to listen to them and so on and so forth. These stakeholders are important because they cook the meals that we have to eat.
Do you associate them in your sourcing time?
If I...
well, what you call market engagement, we call it sourcing. I don't know if,
I talk with them. Yes, they are my interest group.
Okay, so they take part on the sourcing time with the companies.
Sometimes I don't bring them to the table when we talk with the firms because it's too many hours for them. And sometimes the companies will say something where I say, it's not going to happen. And they would be worried. They would be, oh my God, does he get a crazy idea for this and da. I listen to them and saying, what are your priorities? Should it be quality, time of delivery, cost? What is important that you decide what day they deliver and, and how many days a week do you need goods and services and things like that. So these are the things and how wide a variety do you need? Would you use a lot of different apples if I procure for them, or do you just want Pink Lady and Granny Smith, for example? So I talk with them, so I make sure that their needs is reflected in the final procurement. And then when I talk with the market, I tell the market about the needs of the kitchen staff. For example, we have the kitchen staff saying, last time I talked with them and said, the most important thing for them were they got to decide the time and the date of delivery. More important than quality and price. So I was thinking, okay, this is like top priority. Then also quality. And then they said, well, you make sure that we keep the price because you're hired in the budget department, so we don't even mention that. So I was like, that's cheating. But anyway, so these people are really important for me, stakeholders. But I was surprised about it was the time and date that they could decide. So when I went to talk with the market at a joint market dialogue, the market said, you know what, we could reduce CO2 emission enormously if we were the one to decide when the kitchen got their deliveries. They are allowed to say they want 1, 2, 3 times a week, but we get to decide what dates, what time, in their opening hours, okay. And then I said, I don't think I can do that because this is their main priority in this contract. If I do that, they will not, they would say, you have not listened to us. So actually they said that I could reduce CO2 emission by 25% on this contract if I did what they were telling me, and they would also reduce price because it would lower their cost. I was in a dilemma. Okay, we have a politician saying we are CO2 neutral in 25. That's going to be tight in any way. So I thought everything has to be done for this. So I said, this is not something I can decide. So I went to my steering group, which is my boss and the other department's bosses, and said, so I have this problem. What can I do? And they said, oh, yeah, that's a problem. We'll go to the directors. So they went to the directors saying, we have this problem. And the directors actually decided we have to listen to the kitchen staff. Of course we did, and I was happy because that makes my contract more eatable, it's easy. But then I was sad because I really want to do good and sustainable procurement. So I was divided. Then I came up with the idea, within the procurement, I will do saying we need to work with this during the contract period, and we will change the method of delivery during the contract period together with the kitchen staff and together with the wholesalers. So this is how I then worked with this. This is taken from a concrete market dialogue. He's just raising his hand. So just to let you know that it's because he has his hand up and saying, hey, can you listen to me? And of course I can listen to him because he's the supplier. So when I come up with crazy ideas, for example, this with the delivery saying, could we work on this? And then he says, yes, but is it the contract matter? I'm like, yeah, it's the delivery terms. But he says, yeah, but it's not the concrete delivery. Now you're changing it during contract period. And how can I know how fast you will change it? And so I came up with this idea in the new procurement. Maybe we should not just say that we are buying food. Maybe we are also buying a collaboration with the supplier of meeting our food strategy and our policy goals. So I changed the contract matter to not just being food, but also a collaboration. And then we could actually start talking about, is it then a service contract? Oh, anyway, that was a new one for me, thinking. Law is so interesting to work with.
Need a candle for them.
Yeah, but this we create, like hygge, right? It's a Danish. Yeah. It's a Danish word for feeling nice and being cozy, and yeah.
So
there's even a book about it. So
I think that you could probably define us as very cozy pirates.
Cozy Viking pirates.
Yeah, cozy Viking pirates.
Okay, so I would just mention this because that actually refers back to the market dialogue where you're talking about. So then when I write a draft for the procurement, after talking one-on-one and the kitchen staff and everything else, I publish my draft. It is out for open consultation, everything, all my mistakes, everything. And then I invite them to come have a meeting, a joint meeting, all of them, after 10 days. I say, we have 3 suppliers and 1 from Sweden, always joining. That's interesting. I love that I'm so good friends with the company in Sweden that they want to participate, because my own suppliers, which are almost, because we almost only have 2 that wants to give a bit and they're quite big, so they're fighting. But then the one from Sweden comes and they feel really pressured about that one. And that is so fun. It's so good. Anyway, we have this huge meeting. I tell them, if you do not want to ask your questions out to everybody, you can write them to me in advance, and I'll make sure that I put them into my monologue speak, which will be because it's required.
So you speak Danish and Swedish, or how would you do? English?
I speak Danish because the guy, the Swedish sent, is from Denmark. So
Okay.
he's we hire both so we can, and they really want to. It's because one of our Danish big companies, the biggest company in Denmark, went into their market.
Yeah, exactly.
So they want to go into our market. So they both hired one from the other side so they can speak both languages. It's smart. And then we also understand each other a little bit.
This is a true inner market working.
Yeah.
Is it compulsory for any companies who wants to bid to your tender to attend this meeting or not? It's just
It's open for everybody. Everybody's welcome.
It's not compulsory.
Everybody.
It's not compulsory.
And it's if Italian market shows interest, I would switch to English. I would have to, and then it would be fine. My material, though, and that's quite interesting on an EU level, is in Danish. So that's interesting, right? Would they Google translate 250 pages? Maybe. But anyway, I have this paper out. They ask me question in advance, and then we do the talk about it. And then often, actually, I saw the last 2 consultations I had, we had a really great discussion. And they were really not agreeing on my tender material. They were like, really, you cannot do this. This is wrong. And why did you put it like that? And that's silly. And because I also wanted, right before we went and published this market consultations, the government published new dietary guidelines. I did not see them coming because I'm not linked to that department. So I was quite surprised because that means we have to change our diet even more into a more sustainable direction, because they're not just dietary guidelines, they are also healthy, sustainable dietary guidelines. So I was thinking how to make sure that nuts and lentils go faster up, because we need to do it within 4 years or something before 2015. How can I use my procurement for this? So I figured out that we would do it like scale-wise, saying this year we do this, and this year we'll do this. And they were like challenging me, saying, how can you promise that your kitchen, you're not the one buying, how can you promise that the kitchen will buy this? I saw the challenge in this because I didn't know. So instead I made what I call a climate weight on this, because I linked it to our food policy. So suddenly it's a collaboration. Suddenly it is something that we as a municipality value higher. So that's why we create this way on, a positive way on the food that we think, according to the dietary guidelines, are more healthy and sustainable. So these are some of the things we can do. Okay, so now the funny part for me comes, because now I did the market dialogue, the joint one. Last one I had, I think, 170 questions or something during the market dialogue and after. The market dialogue is recorded. You can join on Teams, you can join in person, but everything is recorded and published. So they know what will be said there, will be open for everybody. The material's out there, everybody can read it. And then I go back, I close my door. And then I'm quiet. Then I start writing. I take in all the comments, everything that's been said. I put it up in an Excel sheet. I link it directly to where I put it in my draft procurement, so everybody can see the questions that have been made at different places. And then I start answering. Will I change something in the draft procurement, or do I not change it? And if I do not change it, why didn't I? If I do change it, why did I change it? So that they can see I reflected off the comments they made, and that I took them seriously, and I actually took into account what they said. We really want to deliver by drones. We think it's much more green. We're not there yet, unfortunately. We want to deliver on bike. We think it's much more green in the inner circle. Yeah, but we don't think that you have room enough or something. So right now we go for electronic vehicles or whatever. So this way, and linking it directly to the draft. Just this is the last point, because then we can have the discussion about this. Because then when I'm done with this, last time I thought it would take me a week. It didn't. It took me like a month after my dialogue. I was really quiet because we had all these, and we also had the trouble with where they wanted to be the one planning the route, and so it had to go up to the politicians and down again. It takes quite some time. When I'm done with all this process, I then publish, of course, press the button, as you said, and then it's out there. And then once it's published, of course, as you all know, there cannot be done that many changes. If there's done major changes to the procurement material, you have to do it over again. So that's also why this process is actually really good, because we actually often see that there's not that many questions afterwards. And then 10 days after I publish, I have what I call a market monologue meeting. I invite all of them again, online, no need to join me in person. It's on Teams, I record it. Oh, and I also, together with my material, I publish the track changes in the draft material. I publish all the questions that were there and question and answers that were there. I published the market dialogue that we recorded. So everything is published once I also publish my final tender material. So everybody can see everything. And then I have the market dialogue going through everything slowly and clearly, and then saying, and these are the documents you have to fill out. This is how you have to do it. I hope you're all willing to give a bit. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please write me and I will answer them as soon as possible. That's it. That's for me the good market dialogue. That's what works so far, at least for me.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is this a procedure that is written in your national, in your local?
No, it's
your internal procedure.
in my
of your
mind book.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Because we have something in Belgium that is the competitive dialogue, and it's
Yes.
some.
It's a method.
I thought
in
it
the,
was
in the
this
directives.
procedure. Yeah.
As a competitive dialogue is a certain method of buying. It's linked to a public.
It's a little bit similar, but
It is.
formalistic. So here it's something. It's not written in law. There's not a procedure because you speak about 10 days, and so.
No, this is just to give them time because it's
formal, but
huge.
You embed it with a lot of guarantees to avoid that one is privileged and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually was questioned once. Oh, but that takes so much time.
Yeah.
Do you know, like that's not worth it? I'm like, it is worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Because I see that when I do my tender, I don't get that many questions.
No.
I have them before. And before I can adjust, and I can talk with the politicians, and I can talk with my colleagues, and I don't have them during, because if it's during the tender period, you will have so fast of trying to, and you cannot change it, and it's a mess. You know, so
And also,
Yeah.
as a one singular point.
You start over again at the same time. So.
Yeah.
Also,
And also-
of the litigation.
Exactly. As a one very important point here is that market dialogue is very, very conflict de-escalating. This is reducing the risk of better complaints and conflicts afterwards very much. As been in my opinion, 9 out of 10 complaints are really made on the basis of poor communication. That these competitors don't feel that they have been heard. They feel that unjustly that they've been treated unfairly or unjustly, and often it's because that they have another view on things, and they haven't told you about this view and had this discussion. So this is time well spent. It's a good investment when you do this, and also, as most of you would probably know, it's far easier to make a complaint against a faceless public organization than it is to make a complaint to Bettina, who you know and value and appreciate.
I work really hard.
Exactly. So this is always a good
human
investment.
relations. It can do something.
As a competitive dialogue that you spoke about is a method. It's a process of buying in the directive. It's very well described, and actually that is where the ones that are chosen to compete have a direct opportunity to form the tendering material in the process. So you do as well. You do as well acknowledge from the EU that this is a procedure that can be used, that all the market actors can actually be a part of writing the material.
I didn't choose it.
No.
But actually,
It's a complex method.
I was at an education. We had like a 4 days education on how to do sustainable public procurement, and all category managers in Copenhagen should join that. And they called me and saying, yeah, we know that you kind of do a lot of things already, but the politicians decided all of us have to go to this education. So could you sign up? And like, yeah, no problem. It's good catering and colleagues, so I'll join. But I was actually surprised because then they talked about this and I didn't know that much because I think my mind is working so but I was like, that's kind of like a hybrid of what I'm doing. So I was also like thinking about this. Maybe it is a little bit of, but not like
As it's a method that I often use when I do tenders for clients, because you can almost only ever get wiser in this process, both parties, both the contracting authority and all the market actors, as well everybody gains from this. And I've never had a complaint from these procedures, because all the best tenders are always those where the losers are also happy, because they feel it's been a good process. They walk away wiser. They have a better chance of winning the contract next time.
Chiara, do you have a question?
Yes, I was thinking that maybe this part is also important for in terms of setting the price, because it's in general important to ensure the feasibility and the realistic realness of what you ask as a public buyer, but also in terms to, yes, align to the prices, because sometimes there are also complaints about the fact that the public administration asks so many things, the price proposed by the company is so low, but then they won the tender, and then it's also unfair competition. There are a lot of
and also you run the risk of limiting competition because of certain requirements or demands that really gives you little or no value to the public to the public authority, but it limits competition since there are only certain suppliers that can meet the demands. So this is also a good way of having a discussion on these requirements and on these demands and how to reduce it so we get more efficient competition.
Just to get the sound a little bit more in. But no, I just thought we should have a little air because.
Ooh.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and yell.
Well, as a Bettina does it both before, as at the preliminary stage, and she has this big meeting. But when the tender is in process, 10 days after publication, she has this big,
draft.
The market monologue, or what you would call it.
So you make a selection of the market. Who is qualified?
Okay, you do pre-qualification first.
Yeah.
And then to talk with the ones who are qualified to do it.
Are you speaking about the competitive dialogue method, or just
procedure where you publish your demand?
Yeah.
Mine or the official one?
Yeah, the official one. The method that is called competitive dialogue is a method of procuring that is written in the directive, and it is a limited method. So you have to have a brief qualification at first, where you have to choose at least 3 and at most, let's say, 6. And when you have pre-qualified them, then you have this method that you hold bilateral meetings with each contestant. You have to treat them equally, so you have the same length of the meetings. Normally they're, let's say, 2 hours, and then you have some rounds of dialogue. Recently in a tender I made, we had 3 rounds of dialogue. So we started speaking about the material parts of the tender, and then we got more and more specific down into details in the contracts. And when you finish the dialogue phase in this method, you as well explain that the dialogue phase is now finished. All the tender material has been amended along the way based on the input that you get in these meetings. You also have to make a written memo on what we have discussed, but this is only shared with the participant that you had the meeting with, and they are barred from freedom of information requests and all that. You can never get them.
You use that for what kind of service?
Well, actually, I do it for a lot of different things.
It
was actually just done for food in another city, I know.
Yeah.
They did it for the first time.
I did it. I've done it recently, both on the construction projects and also on in Denmark. Our unemployment system is based on all the municipalities having these job centers where they are due to help.
Complicated matters.
Yes,
but
and it does take some.
Yeah, you can always use it. But
no, actually, but you can always use it because it does have some limitations. It has to be where you cannot define the very specific.
You cannot define. Yes, you have.
Or you need to discuss complex matters on financials or other things. So you have to
or environmental
to justify it that you can use it. But if you think about it, you can almost always use it.
So now to keep time again, we will go for the potato salad. If you are also allowed to stand, everybody's allowed to stand, and you can also, if you need the blood.
I need really a very quick question.
Yeah.
I needed to understand how the canteen service is organized. What I mean is,
sorry,
you as a city do the tender for what? For directly for food, or are you tendering the service?
In Copenhagen we buy food.
And then
we actually also we have 900 kitchens with 1,100 employees that are cooking.
Employees.
Yes.
Municipal employees.
Yes.
Okay.
But we also have a catering contract with a caterer who delivers hot meals for the institutions, because if the kitchen staff gets sick or things like that, they have to also be able to order meals that comes right away, or some kitchen fails if it has a water leak or something. They should be able to get pre-prepared meals.
The people we know in the market dialogue are producers.
It depends. The
farmers, producers.
No, yeah, but it could also be caterers. If we do the catering company, I would do the same process.
Okay.
Actually, no matter what procurement I would make, if it was for furnitures, I would do the same process.
No,
for me.
it is clear.
Yeah, but it is the one who are delivering. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have the same. I talked with the kitchen staff before. I do the same procedure with some of the kitchen staff to make sure I meet their demands. So I also invite them in for meeting, but for me they are more colleagues. So we talk with them. If I had a system like Ghent, I would invite the kitchen staff that serves the meals for the kids to make sure that and the principal of the school properly, because he also maybe have a issue of saying, I don't know, maybe, but this is still my favorite picture, and no, because I'm really running out of time now, so I will have to speak very fast. We could discuss about market dialogue forever, but I am having my potatoes, so potato tender. Because for me, this has been a dream for like 4 years, 5 years maybe, to make this potato tender, to open up our tenders towards small and medium-sized enterprises and farmers. This was a goal for one of my politicians from many, many years ago, saying, oh, I want to buy local. I'm like, no, you want to open up your tenders towards small and medium-sized enterprises and farmers, also from the local area. Then I have been thinking about, we have been talking a lot about how that we do not have enough farmers. How the farmers that we have are old. We need young blood to become farmers. And I'm thinking, how do we support this? People are moving away from the small cities. So how do we make people aware in the cities where food comes from and that it's grown in the fields and what it is to become a farmer? And I'm thinking maybe we could link this with opening up the tenders towards farmers. Maybe we can actually connect them. So my idea was trying to connect this. Then I have 4 girls at home, and now they are teenagers. But when they were small, they were always giving this tomato plant with them home every year, and it was supposed to grow. And I'm like, why do we get a tomato plant? I have 4 tomato plants every year, and it's nice, no doubt about that. But then I asked them, do you link this with education? Do they teach you about why this plant grows and what you should do with the tomatoes? And they're like, yeah, no. They say we should water it and it should have sunlight. I'm like, yeah, but why? I don't know. Okay, so, and we could use it for our dish, for a salad. I'm like, okay, fine, yeah. There's room for improvement. So this room for improvement is my mountains. I wanted to climb the new mountains that I saw. This is how I feel every time I do a new procurement. It's a child. Thank you for calling. We need to cross the mountains to do the procurement. We know kind of the road, but it has a lot of side roads you can take if you want. But there is a path. Just need to find the right one. And in your rucksack, you have all the good stuff that you know, the legal grounds, all the goals we have to also fulfill. We know we have to fulfill them. So it's just a journey we have to walk on. Now we have a little fact about Copenhagen. We talked about that we have 1,100 kitchens in 925 locations. So because we serve meals in daycare institutions 0 to 6 years, It's by law that they have a meal. Perfect, very good. Sounds.
21 to make speaking?
Yeah. We cook on site mainly. It was chosen by the politician that they like to have the smell of the food in the daycare institutions, and that the kids can come watch the kitchen staff to cook differently. It was also made, this was in 2009, this law actually came, and that was why I got the job. That was really nice, so I was happy. In the beginning, it was said that it should be like that all over. Then they decided not to, because the parents, they made a riot about it. Actually, it was one of the few times that the parents in Denmark really got mad, because the love is in the food that the kids bring into the daycare centers. It's not true, because it actually shows that in Copenhagen, where we serve really good food for these, we have 98% of people saying yes to having food in daycare institutions. So it depends on what kind of food you serve. So the love is not in the meal box, at least anymore. We of course serve food for elderly, social vulnerable people also. We also serve food for elderly living at home that are not able to cook by themselves anymore because they're too old. So we have actually a big group of people that we serve meals to, actually 80,000 daily meals, and 40,000 of these are dinners. And dinners means that the people probably don't go home and eat. And that is also why it's important that the food that we bring is diverse and according to seasons, also our traditional eating habits. We eat differently from spring to fall. Christmas, we have special Christmas dishes and so on and so forth.
But dinners like in the evening? When you say dinners in the evening?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the evening meal. The 80,000 is because we have so many kids that are only eating lunch. We don't serve by default school meals. We don't in Denmark have a rule about that we have to offer school meals in the cities. It's each city that decides whether or not. And in Copenhagen, we decide, yes, we want school meals. We have 70 schools. And actually, we don't have capacity enough to serve all school children. The parents have to buy the meals every day on an every daily basis. So that means also that the quality and the variety has to be really high, because otherwise the parents will just say no. So it's a free market. They can go and they can take the lunch with them from the home, or like go to the store next door. So it has to be good food. We have 17 schools where we cook on site. And when we're building new schools, this is the way we do it. We build, or mostly build it. We build a kitchen. We have a chef there, and the chef takes the kids into the kitchen and cook with them. This is just to give you a picture of what we're doing. And like I said, I'll just keep this because I love this slide, but because either you go to the dry land or you go to the more green side, and we want to go to the green side. We want to use procurement to change the food system. We want to use procurement to move into a more sustainable direction and to bring the political goals into life. This is important for us. These are some of the goals that we have. We have a food strategy. This is the first, there's a link and you can read it. It's also there in English, but here it says that we should connect to the urban side. We should connect with local. They want us to buy. So that was even better for me to do my potato tender. And then the coach project came up and I thought, oh, this is the chance. Now I can do it, finally. So then we got the focus on this and we actually did the tender. We looked at how can we do it differently, and that is also why Emily, she will tell you later on this afternoon, because we did not only work on potatoes, we also worked on trying to buy fruit and vegetables in season and opening up for small scale farmers to do this on a dynamic platform, but she will tell you much more about this. I didn't want the potato tender to be on this platform to begin with, at least, because I wanted to link it so hardly with teaching. I wanted to have the possibility that the kids could go to the farm site and that the kids could actually meet the farmer. And I also wanted to link it to my potato plant story. On a personal level, it was really irritating that we were just getting these tomato plants, but not linking it to education. It's a missed opportunity that the kids grow their own plants and then eat the food learn how to cook the food, and then also learning about the cooking or the growing method and the soil and biodiversity and everything, all these things that I didn't even learn about because I also just got the plant with me home when I was a kid. So all these things I wanted to fix or trying to fix it. So we created this potato tender within the coach project. And this is where we actually, like we are here, having also trying to have the farmer's perspective, getting the way to show why it is the best job next to procurement or a lawyer to become a farmer, actually. So we agreed on this tender where that the farmer, he should help us create this pot where we plant the potato. So, and then every fortnight he should come online and tell the kids about the potato, how is it growing in the soil, because they cannot see it happens below dirt. And then he should also tell them, have you watered your plant today, or do it not need any water? How can you feel if it needs water, and so on and so forth. So they get this relationship with the farmer during this fall time. And then actually some of the kids will also go visit the farmer in fall time, so that they see how it is to and meet him. Yeah.
Do you pay the farmer for these extra services?
I wrote the contract so that the potatoes he sells goes directly to the big kitchen who cooks for the schools that do not have kitchens on site. So it's 8,000 meals. One big factory could cook these 8,000 meals. The potato he sells goes directly there. We, of course, buy them. Then on the second part of the contract, I made this teaching module saying, so if you get this, you should also do this. Give me a price, how much does this pot cost? Give me a price, how much does the dirt cost? Give me a price, how much does the potato that I plant in the dirt cost? And then tell me the price per hour that you will be filming the. And then you should sign that we are allowed to use it forever and ever. The film about you telling about the potato, because we hope that we can use this film next year, and well, maybe we'll make another one when it comes to 5, 6, 7 years. But yeah, so he said yes to this, and then he gave us a price. Another thing I also incorporated into this potato tender, and I really like this part also, because a potato is not just a potato. You know, it's really something different, you know, like one potato is good for boiling and eating, and one is good for mashing, really mashed potato, like no lumps in it. Another one is really good for putting in the oven and making it crispy.
French fries.
So, huh?
And French fries.
And French fries, yes. Sorry, I'm from Denmark. We don't do that much, okay? French fries.
We're in Belgium, so you really have to make
Yeah, sorry.
It's called French fries, but it's
The Belgian fries, okay?
Sorry.
It's just, and you can get them blue, you can get them red, you can get so many varieties. But we actually have a problem with the organic potatoes, and that is actually some of these potatoes, when we buy them, we cannot get a good quality of mashed potatoes in organic. We don't grow that in Denmark or anywhere else, or maybe we do, but we don't buy them at least. So we buy mostly the Danish potatoes. So I put in the contract that he should help us grow a certain kind of potatoes that is really good in mashing, and that we should test it in the kitchen so that we can get the good quality of mashed potatoes for the elderly especially, because they do not like lumps in their mashed potatoes by tradition. So then it's also a working relationship, and then he had to give a bit on what does it cost to do this test part of field, and how many of these potatoes should we take for it to be profitable for him. So yes, I put it out for competition. There were a couple of questions, and we'll go on afterwards. Yeah.
If you're reusing the footage that he's filming right now, does that also mean that when there's a follow-up tender, the educational part is lost? So you're linked to the
No, it just means that the next guy, he would not have to do the movie, but we would still link in that we have created different kind of teaching material that links to these pots of potatoes, and we would still be able to buy the potato that grows We would have the film because it's quite costly to make a film every fortnight with a farmer. We would also like to share it, so we will make sure that it's texted. It's actually within a project called Food Trails. We'll do that part of the tender because the Food Trails is implementing tenders to public. If you kind of like, how can you impact public through your tenders? And I feel this is impacting public through the tenders. So it made us closer to our dream of actually giving these pots to more children, because I had a small part. Now I can do it bigger. And also we linked it to a university who follows and study the kids to see, does it have an effect? And how will the teachers use this different kind of teaching material? We have it linked to math so that you understand an acre or what do you call it? Square meter something, and that you understand how many potatoes can grow on one. How you link it to biology? How can one potato become into 10? To photosynthesis or whatever it's called. Good, I'm not a teacher. Also into math, how many potatoes do we eat in a classroom like this? So how big a field should we use for this, so that they get a more different view on this. We link it to history. Do you remember the potato disease? Was it a disease in the potato?
All the teachers that link into the project, but why I was asking because it was also the key to have local products.
Yeah.
So if the farmer is not part of the educational part anymore, in the next procedure?
No, it's not the key to having local projects. Seen from the lawyer side here, this is the possibility for opening up my tender towards small and medium-sized enterprises and farmers, also from the local area. But I think he thinks it's fun because he really wants to work with this. He's liking that we are in contact with the kids and the pupils and things like that. So he likes this part. We write also that they should be able to visit the farm. So we will continue having this, but even without this, he would still give a direct bid because it's possible for him. And our wholesalers say, no, I don't want to deliver the potatoes I want to deliver everything because I have a big truck. But he says, no, I have a smaller truck and I would like to just deliver potatoes because this is what I'm good at. I had a question down there and there and then there and there.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the corner, do you have a question?
Yeah.
No, it was behind you actually. No, it's okay. Yeah. And then, sorry, I'll just take you in the
Okay.
Yeah. Francesca, did you have a question?
We have a question from an online participant, Karina Woolhead, and she can mute herself and speak.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm also from Denmark, from the southern part of Denmark in Guldborgsund municipality. I'm just very curious. It's very, very, very interesting to hear all these aspects of the tender process. I would like just to ask you a specific question. Who is the provider of the school education? You mentioned the school classes for children where they learn to cook, etc. And just curious.
Yeah, the cooking classes are the normal cooking classes. So they will get the potato, the potato kit, as we call it, to grow the year before they have these mandatory cooking classes as we have in Denmark, like where they go into the classroom once a week for 3 hours or something to learn how to cook all kinds of dishes. Yeah, so it's by law we have these cooking classes, and it's just to the audience so they know that we have these by law.
It's exactly 60 hours a year in the 5th and the 6th grade.
Wonderful. She knows so much more about it than me. And actually now, isn't it correct that we build it that you can elect it for the next year also, and then you can get an exam in cooking skills for...
Yes, yes, it is correct. From the 7th grade up to the 9th grade, yeah, it's a possibility to have it as an elective. So I just think instead of wasting the time here for the general audience, I would really like to get in touch with you later and after this and learn more, because we also have some exciting ideas we would like to discuss.
Wonderful. And you know what? We are also, I have to blow some air into our new, we have a Danish National Food Procurement Officer Network, and you're more than welcome also to be there. I'm still into inviting for this year's meeting. So if you write me, I will, on my last slide, I have my email contact. So please write me and we'll stay in contact. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, looking forward.
Yeah.
Bye. Next one, I think it was you. Yeah.
So according to the new school scheme, we have the distribution of the fruits, vegetables, and milk, and on the other hand, we have educational component.
Yeah.
Can we mix? Not can we mix? Can we, when we design the documentation, the tender documentation for delivering the products, can we include also the education component, so the person that delivered the fruits also be engaged in education component?
Yeah, I cannot see why you couldn't.
Because there are the products, there are different types, you know, there are the products and there are the services, and you are using different CPV code.
Yeah, but it's like when you are asking for, that is linked to the contract matter. And that's where I usually play a good ball with Johannes, because asking him, can I do this? You know, I want to do this. And then he says, yeah, but you have to make sure that the contract matter includes everything. So it depends on, like he also said earlier, the wording. What do you write? What is it that you're asking for? Do you ask for apples? You will get apples. Do you ask for apple and education about how we grow apples? It is a need you have, so why not link it? It's not illegal. I cannot really see why it should be illegal. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, just to add to this is actually a very good point on these mixed contracts, because this is a mixed contract. Oh, sorry. There are goods meant to be delivered with potatoes, but there is also an educational service meant to be delivered. And I don't know, okay. So now I'm going to educate this potato. No, there is a service to be delivered, and this service is a light service. It's a social and specific service in as well accordance with the CPV vocabulary. I don't know the economic distribution of this contract, whether it's the potatoes being delivered or it's potatoes, but this might actually be an example of a mixed contract where the services, where the social and specific services could have the highest economical impact. And as such, it would be a contract for social and specific services with the high threshold of 750,000 euros. So this is an example of how by mixing contracts, of course, they have to be as well objectively justified, but this is an objectively justified contract since it makes sense to link the actual good to the production process. You see, it's all coming together now. But to the actual process and to the educational service for the kids.
Peter.
Yeah, I have a question about how you do it, because I remember also in our guidances you always say, and the legal experts usually agree, that you can put award criteria, you know, to say, okay, on food and education, the company who delivers the food gets award points for doing educational awareness raising, let's say in this case. But how do you do it? Because I understood in your case, the moment you get the bid, are they already aware that then later comes also the education, or is it a mass criteria? So whoever applies, so it's a mass criteria, it's a technical specification.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they know that they should deliver
just part one and part two.
Okay.
So that it's kind of like, okay, I'll go really fast because now the time. Sorry. Yeah. And then you had a bit
over it. That's fine.
So a short one. And then, yeah.
That's a question and reaction on when you said you were not acting for local farmers.
Yeah.
What we aim at doing is in Dunkirk is to add a global cost in this issue, including the transportation of the people, so that there is a preference for those who are closer than the others.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm going to touch on that later.
Yeah,
on these as a life cycle cost and taking environmental externalities into the cost.
So I will run because we are not run, but run through this, and because we have a lunch break coming up. The French fries. we have to, when we do these we have to link it to the kitchen needs, to the needs of the teaching the kids, so that it is not just because we want to buy local. It's because we actually have a need of buying this. We need to educate the kids. We have politicians talking about how we want kids to become carpenters, how we want kids to become not just lawyers and
all these damn academics.
Yeah, so exactly. So how do we do this? This is a tool actually of showing kids you can do something that is really important. Food is something that we all need. You could be a part of this huge effort that we all need. So talking with the kitchen, also saying how many different suppliers is it possible for you to handle? So you don't need the 200 and something that we said before. Should we then procure for everything in lots? No. We should talk with the kitchen, also talk with the kitchen saying, where do you see it meaningful for you to open up the tenders towards the market? This is good in the dialogue with the kitchen to have done your market research already, so you know who's available out there. You know there's an interest from the market, and then you go to the kitchen and say, look, I have these 215, 71 something that would be interesting giving a direct bid. Would you be able to handle them on an everyday basis, delivering goods for you? You would say, no, doesn't work. No, it's not possible. They would say, my kitchen did, the big one, saying 10, 15, maybe, that could work because they're professional. They have a guy handling deliveries to them and ordering to them. So this would work when you talk with your kitchen. And then we know that we can only do this on 10 different small contracts. And then talking with them, what is then important for you? They said dairy products, potatoes, because potatoes actually have, these are not, I don't think they would, because they are not like really new. It's not even potato time, so it's also, but they can last forever. But then they're not like really good in the peel. They would like also newly up-digged potatoes and things like that. They want strawberries, of course. They want fresh herbs, things like that. So these things we list, and then we again go to the market and start talking with the market, these concrete ones that the kitchen, because then it links to the kitchen's need. And that's when we can say it's also very legal, very concrete. Why are we going only for the potatoes and only for the strawberries? Because it's a kitchen need. That's what they defined would have a very great value for them, where we make a direct contract. So this is some of the last slides. We believe that we want to bring the farm to the table. Food tells a story and make it comes alive for the kids. We want to link it to the cooking. We want them to know where everything comes from. The kids, they are our future, hopefully. They are the one that has to clear up some of the myths we are helping creating. And we need to help them do this. We need to change now and to go in the right direction. So I think we are in the right direction now. We did this with WHO. You can see it. I think I maybe also talked about it yesterday, where you can actually see the criteria that we are working with in our procurement. So you can read much more about that. But we are also creating something similar in the framework of Coach, and I cannot share it yet because it's not done yet. But next time there will be a picture of that beside here, what we are doing in Coach, where we describe these different methods of going below threshold and how you can do this. And then we have within the Best Remap project, we're building up this EU Food Procurement Officer Network, where everybody's welcome, so that we can share this idea, like today, hopefully even more, and on how to do this, really concrete. And I was getting this idea when Peter, he talked earlier on the manifesto, that maybe we should, on the next EU Food Procurement Officer group, talk about the manifesto and then saying, where do we want to go in depth on these? What is possible in each country? How should we make it work? And this, so that could be an idea. We work with DJ Sante on this, Wim, to see how it's linked to Farm to Fork mandatory criteria that we are working on. So I think that this was it for me, because lunch time is almost done. I know we had the Q&A properly, but we had it also while we were talking, and we can continue talking over lunch. And to the online participants, thank you. And
could you please go back to the slide with your name on it, please? You went past it so quickly. Could you please go back to the slide with your name on it? The one you just had. Yeah, thank you.
I'll let it stay. Thank you.
Yeah.
But come back after lunch, okay?
Kan du høre mig nu? Nå,